Chapter 45. It was already afternoon after the meeting with Hines and the others. The rain was a bit lighter compared to before, and there was a bit of light in the sky that was covered in dark clouds. Sue-E hesitated a bit, but he still braved the rain to return to Banda City. His first destination wasn't home. Rather, he came to a small building in the west of Banda City. This was where the Magic Research Institute of New Flying Chamber of Commerce was located. Actually, according to Sue-Yi's original plan, this Academy of Magic should be together with the factory. This would make it easier for the Research Institute and the factory to communicate with each other. But after considering the special situation of the signs, magicians always thought highly of themselves. Adding in the fact that the first researcher the Research Institute hired was the young and beautiful girl Steele, Sue-Yi rented a small building for the Research Institute. After Akali and Evita entered the Research Institute, Sue-Yi wanted to rent a place for them to live, but who would have thought that the two of them liked the environment of this small building and suggested that they live in the Research Institute? Sue-Yi naturally wouldn't reject this. So now, this small building wasn't just the Academy of Magic. It could also be considered the dormitory for the Research Institute. When the door opened, Akali's round face was revealed. Perhaps she never thought that Sue-Yi would come in the rain to visit, but Akali was shocked. Only then did she react and invite Sue-Yi in. Entering the room, Sue-Yi looked around and found that this living room was very messy. Not only were blueprints scattered all over the ground, there were various magic materials scattered all over the place. Other than this, there were several pieces of girls' clothes scattered on the ground, and there were even 2 pieces of underwear mixed in. Noticing Sue-Yi's gaze, Akali's face turned red. She quickly picked up the clothes on the ground and quickly ran into the bedroom to put them away. When she came out, the smile on her face was very awkward. Sue-Yi smiled and didn't mind. In fact, when he was in university, he was fortunate enough to visit the female dormitory several times because he was a committee member on duty. He found that the female dormitory was not as clean as he had imagined. Instead, it was as messy as the male dormitory. Some of the female dormitories were even more messy than the male dormitories. Since then, Sue-Yi knew that there wasn't much difference between girls and boys. There was also the difference between laziness and diligence. Akali was originally a carefree character. She made such a mess here, but it was not beyond Sue-Yi's expectations. Seeing the smile on Sue-Yi's face, Akali misunderstood that Sue-Yi was mocking her. Although her face turned even redder, she couldn't help but snort and glare at Sue-Yi. "Sir Chairman, why did you suddenly come here? What's the matter?" "Yes, there's something. Where's Evita? Call her out. I have a research task for you," Sue-Yi said. Hearing that it really was work-related, Akali forgot her shame and anger. She signaled to Sue-Yi to wait before running upstairs. Seeing her rushing off, Sue-Yi couldn't help shaking his head. This Akali, she really was a child who had just graduated from school. She really wasn't that good at dealing with people. No matter what, he was still the chairman of a guild. Coming here, she didn't even pour him a cup of tea and just left him here. Sue-Yi picked up the blueprints scattered on the ground and looked over them before giving a slight nod. These blueprints were related to the magic harvester they were currently researching. Based on the magic array drawn on the blueprints, it was gradually reaching Sue-Yi's requirements. It seemed like she and Evita had been working very hard during this time. Otherwise, it was impossible for them to reach this kind of progress in such a short period of time. Based on their current speed, they should be able to finish researching the core magic array of the magic harvester very soon. That way there would be enough time for the magic machine workshop to do large amounts of experiments with the magic array. There were footsteps coming from the stairs again, and Sue-Yi looked over before his eyes lit up. Akali had a carefree personality, so she didn't care about her image in the research facility that was like her own home. Not only did she make a mess in the living room, she didn't even clean herself up. Evita was completely different. Even if she was wearing a set of loose and simple home clothes, she had tidied herself up without a single mess on her body. She had a delicate appearance and a gentle aura. So with this appearance, compared to Akali, she was very eye-catching. A look of praise flashed in Sue-Yi's eyes as he waved his hand at the two of them. "Come, I'll show you the next research mission." Evita slightly knit her brows. Sir Chairman, we're still researching the magic array of the magic harvester. There's no conflict. This mission can wait until you finish researching the magic harvester. Moreover, this is much simpler compared to the magic harvester, so it won't take that long. Come, take a look. Sui revealed the blueprint that Heinz's group of 3 had just seen with a smile. Evita and Akali carefully looked over the blueprints before nodding at the same time. It is indeed much simpler. Akali pointed at the blueprints before looking up to ask, Chairman, can you tell us what this thing is used for? For such a simple magic array, I don't think it's anything powerful, right? That's right, this thing is very simple, but you can't look down on this thing. Perhaps every family will be able to use it in the future. Sui replied with a smile. Come, I'll explain it to you. After around a quarter of an hour, Akali and Evita finally finished listening to Sui's explanation and looked at Sui with surprised gazes at the same time. Chairman, just what is your head made of? Why do you always have so many strange ideas? Looking at Akali's actions, she actually wanted to raise her hand to rub Sui's head, but her rationality stopped her. Akali, don't speak nonsense. Evita reprimanded her. Sir Chairman is different from normal people. Otherwise, Steel wouldn't. Evita suddenly stopped. Steel wouldn't do anything? Sui asked in a curious voice. Did this guy tell you something behind my back? Did she say something bad about me? No, of course not. Evita quickly waved her hand. She just, in short, she didn't say anything bad about you, really. Believe me, Sir Chairman is a very good person. How could Steel say anything bad about you? Are you giving me a large good person card? Sui rubbed his nose in a depressed manner. Forget it. It doesn't matter what she says. You should focus on your research and try to finish this thing as soon as possible. According to the plan, I'm planning to start producing this product at the beginning of next month. Do you think you can finish researching it before then? Beginning of next month? That's half a month. Akali tilted her head to think. There shouldn't be a problem. We only need a week to finish the magic array for the magic harvester. This thing is this simple. I think it'll be finished in a week. Evita also gave a slight nod. I also feel there shouldn't be a problem. Good, then I can be assured. Sui stood up and looked around before asking. Right? How have you been here during this time? Do you lack anything? If you need anything, just tell me. If there's anything you can't tell me, you can tell Steel and have her help you take care of it. We're not lacking anything. We've been living quite well here. Evita waved her hand and looked out the window before asking Sui, Sir Chairman, are you prepared to leave? It's still raining quite heavily outside. How about you wait here for a bit? You can also study some problems with us. We've met quite a few problems over the past few days, but they aren't related to magic arrays. It should be like what you said before. It's related to mechanical principles. We don't understand this too well, so if you can explain it to us, I think it'll be better for us to study these things in the future. Right, there are indeed many things that feel strange. Akali also said, for example, the wild wind array on the magic harvester. Why does it have to be so small? This will make the power of the wind much weaker. Also, why does this array have to guarantee that the speed of the wind can't be low? This is very hard to control since wind magic is known for being unstable. Although the method you use for the revolving wind array in the magic fan is quite good, I feel that perhaps you can change it like this. Seeing the two of them with curious looks, Sui thought about it before nodding. All right, I'll use this chance to explain some basic problems that I considered when designing these magic machines. That way, when you study magic arrays in the future, you can consider these problems and it'll be more convenient for you to study them. First, I'll tell you what a magic machine is. The so-called magic machines. The meaning of magic is not the magic magicians have, but rather the meaning of magic power. To put it more directly, it's using magic power as a source of power. The core of a magic machine is driven by the magic of a magic array. So the magic array is the core of the magic machine. As for the machines, whether it is the magic fan or the machine tools, they can all be called machines. The so-called magic machines. The most important thing is how to combine the magic power with the machine itself, allowing the magic power to perfectly drive the machine and complete the set work. As for this, it involves some mechanical knowledge. Let me start with the relatively simple magic fan. Chapter 46. Perhaps it was because it had been holding in for too long. The rain either didn't fall or lasted for half a month before it finally stopped. By the time the sky had completely cleared up, the sun had revealed its long-awaited glory and shone fiercely for an entire day. People were shocked to find that the weather was no longer as hot as before, making them want to peel off a layer of skin from their bodies. After all, it was already the end of August, and it was the end of summer. There was a bit too much rain during this time, so it made the weed in the fields outside Banna City grow wildly. The weather had only been clear for 2 days, but the fields had already turned from green and yellow to gold. Looking at it, there were golden waves that rippled in the wind, creating a magnificent scene. For a world like the Signs continent that wasn't considered developed and couldn't even guarantee the basic needs of everyone, the annual harvest was the most important thing. No matter what country it was, everyone would put down everything on the important harvest day and focus on harvesting. The Lampaz Kingdom was a bit southwest of the center of the Signs, so they had 2 harvest seasons each year. The autumn harvest was the most important, so when the wheat matured, the entire kingdom would be filled with the autumn harvest. Naturally, Banna City wasn't an exception. But this year, there were some places that were different from the previous years. On the outskirts, to the west of Banna City, there was a large piece of land that belonged to Viscount Leslie. Because they had planted it a bit earlier, close to half of the fields had matured and they were using this time to harvest it. According to the tradition of the previous years, Viscount Leslie would send out all the slaves under him at this time. At the same time, he would send out all his guards to help with the harvest, and there were many times when even the children would participate. After all, the harvest depended on manpower. If there was an extra person helping, it meant that the harvest would finish sooner. Normally at this time, everyone would hope that the heavens wouldn't suddenly rain like before. Otherwise, this year's harvest would be over. But this year was different. Although Viscount Leslie was the same as before, leading the servants of the Viscount Manor to worship the gods, he didn't immediately announce that all the slaves and servants would start harvesting. He would take the lead in harvesting the first ear of wheat to set a symbolic example. Rather, he moved to the side and looked like he was watching a show. This made the Banna City nobles on the side even more confused. Viscount Leslie specially inviting them to watch the Viscount territory harvest ceremony was already very strange, but now Viscount Leslie was acting like this. Just what was Viscount Leslie doing? When everyone was confused, there was an explosion that came from behind Viscount Leslie that attracted everyone's attention. In front of everyone, a strange-looking machine controlled by a large man charged out from behind Viscount Leslie. The appearance of this machine was very strange. At the front of the machine was a huge rectangular iron box. The front of the iron box was open, revealing something that looked like a rake and plow that was rotating along with the roar of the machine. It looked very ferocious. In the middle of the machine was a huge iron frame covered with iron sheets. There was a rumbling sound coming from inside, as if something was constantly vibrating inside. Below the iron frame were 2 huge iron wheels that were half the height of a person. From the looks of it, these wheels had obviously been specially modified. Not only were the wheels as wide as a child's arm, but there were also indentations on them, which seemed to have been made to increase the grip of the wheels. But to many people, this was clearly unnecessary. Judging from the fact that the wheels had easily sunk into the field, the weight of this machine was probably at least a few hundred kilograms. The end of the machine was very simple. There were only 2 handles. It was just enough for the large man to control, allowing the machine to move according to his wishes. Viscount Leslie, just what is this thing for? A noble standing beside Viscount Leslie couldn't help asking. Viscount Leslie revealed a faint smile. There's no meaning in saying it. You'll know when you see it. Hearing this answer, the surrounding nobles who cared about the answer could only helplessly focus their attention on the machine. That large man had already carefully controlled this strange-looking machine into the field. He turned back to look at Viscount Leslie, and seeing Viscount Leslie give him a nod, he took out a piece of white cloth from his pocket to cover his mouth and nose. Then he placed a cloth bag that should be used to hold grain in the back of the machine and pressed a switch on the handle. The machine gave another roar as it slowly moved into the wheat field. The surrounding nobles were all shocked. This machine looked this fierce. If it charged in like this, wouldn't it flatten all the wheat that had finally matured? Even if Viscount Leslie's territory was big enough, he could only grow this much wheat. Wasting it for no reason, he definitely wouldn't do it. In front of everyone's surprised gazes, the iron box at the front of the machine had already rolled in the wheat field's outermost row. The high-speed iron plow easily swallowed the wheat without any hesitation, directly disappearing into the machine. Strange rumbling sounds came from the huge box of the machine. Not long after, a few sharp-eyed nobles noticed that something seemed to be spurting out from the opening at the back of the machine, filling the originally empty cloth bag a little more tightly. As the machine kept moving in the wheat field, the opening in the back kept spraying out something, and the cloth bag was filled bit by bit. When a machine under the large man's control went around the wheat field twice, the cloth bag was filled to the brim, and the large man stopped the machine. Viscount Leslie waved his hand, and two slaves came from behind him. They took the cloth bag off the machine and replaced it with a new one. The large man continued to control the machine to harvest wheat in the field, and the two slaves brought the cloth bag filled with wheat in front of Viscount Leslie. Without waiting for Viscount Leslie's signal, the nobles on the side had already surrounded them. A noble poked his head in to take a look and immediately called out in surprise. He reached his hand into the cloth bag and suddenly grabbed a handful of dark red wheat grains. Seeing this scene, the surrounding nobles couldn't take it anymore. They all reached their hands in, and without any accidents, they all grabbed a handful of wheat grains. Seeing the wheat grains in their hands that didn't have any husks, the nobles simply didn't dare believe their eyes. How is this possible? It was clearly the wheat stalks in the field. How did it suddenly turn into wheat grains? A noble slowly said to himself, "That's right. How did this happen? Viscount Leslie, you wouldn't have already prepared a bag of wheat to trick us, right?" Another noble clearly didn't dare believe it. Viscount Leslie was too lazy to explain to them as he pointed at the machine harvesting the wheat field. Everyone looked over and saw that the machine had already filled the cloth bag they had just swapped in. When the two slaves brought the cloth bag over, everyone looked over and found that the cloth bag was indeed filled with wheat grains. Actually, if one said that Viscount Leslie was tricking them, no one would believe it. First, Viscount Leslie didn't need to do this. Second, the nobles here all had some understanding of farmland, so naturally they knew that the wheat in the two cloth bags was fresh wheat that had just been harvested. It was impossible for Viscount Leslie to trick them with old wheat. But just how did this happen? The wheat was clearly growing in the field, but after being swallowed by that strange-looking machine, it turned into wheat grains after being spat out. I say, Viscount Leslie, this wouldn't be magic, right? A noble couldn't help saying. Viscount Leslie laughed. You're right, this really is related to magic. But it isn't right to say that it's all magic. Have you ever heard of such convenient magic? Everyone shook their heads. All right, I'll tell you. This thing is called the magic harvester, and it's used to harvest wheat. How about it? Now that you've seen it, do you have any thoughts? Viscount Leslie looked at everyone around him with an interested gaze. Everyone looked at each other before a noble's eyes turned. He came in front of Viscount Leslie and asked with a smile, Viscount Leslie, we're all old friends. Tell me, do you have more of this machine? Can you lend me two to use? Hearing this person say this, the surrounding nobles immediately reacted. That's right, lend it to me as well. It's time to harvest the wheat on my territory. Your machine is this amazing, it's simply too easy to use. That's right, we're all old friends. Can you lend it to me as well? What do you mean borrow? You bunch of greedy fellows. Viscount Leslie, I don't need to lend it to you. If you have more, just give me a price and sell me two of them. Right, you can also sell it to me. With this thing, it'll be much easier to harvest wheat. Based on this speed, it'll only take an hour to harvest this large piece of land, right? I don't think it'll even take an hour. There's no need to say, this thing is just too easy to use. Viscount Leslie, if you have more, just give me a price and I'll buy as many as you have. Baron Rover, you only have such a small territory. Why would you buy that many of them? Then again, this machine is this amazing. I don't think there will be many of them. Viscount Leslie, you have to sell them to me first. Don't forget, during the spring harvest, I lent you 100 slaves to help you. Seeing the enthusiastic looks of the surrounding nobles, Viscount Leslie laughed before turning to point at someone behind him. You can buy this machine if you want, but don't look for me. You should look for him. This machine of mine was sold to me by him. The nobles turned around in a daze and saw Sue E with a smile on his face. That smile was simply like a tiger that had been starved for 3 days, seeing a large pile of fat meat in front of its mouth. Chapter 47. Hey, Canby, didn't you complain that you didn't have work to do? Let me tell you some good news. You have work now, and it's a large amount of work. Sue E smiled as he forcefully patted Canby's shoulder. But because dwarves had thick skin and flesh, his hand hurt from the vibration. What work? Is it the magic harvester? Canby's eyes lit up as he immediately asked this. Sue E raised the stack of orders in his hand and said with a laugh, "That's right, it's the magic harvester. An entire 17 of them, and they have to be made in a week. What do you think?" Canby had a happy look on his face, but it instantly collapsed after hearing this number. 17? And in a week? Canby shook his head with a bitter look. Isn't this too exaggerated? Even if we work at full speed, we can't make a single one in a day. Hey, I don't care about that. In short, I'll take this order, and if you can't finish it, don't blame me for deducting your wages next month. Sue E revealed the face of a bloody capitalist. He put the order into Canby's chest and left the magic machine workshop while humming a little tune. It was impossible for his mood to be bad. An entire 17 magic harvesters. According to the price of 70 gold coins per unit, that was a total of 1,190 gold coins. According to Seabass cost calculations, the cost of each magic harvester was less than 10 gold coins. This meant that for each magic harvester sold, New Flyer earned a total of 60 gold coins. This was equal to a profit of 600%. It couldn't even be described as a large profit. At first, Sue E was prepared to set the price of 50 gold coins, according to Viscount Leslie, but Viscount Leslie suggested that Sue E raise the price a bit. He dared to guarantee that it would still sell. Facts proved that Viscount Leslie's suggestion was very correct. After personally witnessing the wonders of the magic harvester, there were over 20 nobles who wanted to buy the magic harvester. Even if Sue E gave a high price of 70 gold coins per unit, these nobles still agreed without even blinking. This made Sue E regret that the price was too low. The reason why he only received 17 orders was because Sue E considered that the production capacity of the magic machine workshop wasn't enough for now, so he rejected several nobles. Because of Sue Yi's rejection, the nobles were quite unhappy, thinking that Sue E was looking down on them. It was a good thing that Viscount Leslie came out from the middle and said that he would lend the magic harvester he already had to them, so this matter was resolved. Looking at it like this, the production capacity of a magic machine workshop isn't enough. It seems like we need to speed up the research on forging machines. Otherwise, if there are more and more orders and we can't finish them, wouldn't we be able to watch the fat meat in our mouth slip away? He was a bit unwilling to give up as he thought this. As for Canby's complaint that they couldn't fulfill the order, Sue E naturally didn't take it to heart. They could only finish one a day because the magic harvester was still in its development stage. Now that it had been developed and was officially in production, naturally it was impossible to maintain such a low production rate. 17 units in a week. This was the number that Sue E had carefully calculated. With the abilities of Canby and the dwarves, they could definitely complete this task. Of course, this week would be rather tiring. But who told Canby to say that the dwarves were the most hard-working, complaining that Sue E had given them too little work? While thinking about what he should do next to increase the production capacity of the magic machine workshop, Sue E slowly walked to the magic fan workshop. Entering the end of August, the magic fan workshop was much more idle compared to before. During this period of time, the workshop was always at full capacity and the slaves had to work overtime for quite a few days. But after completing the largest order of 3,000 magic fans in Karma City, the Magic Fan Workshop became much more relaxed. It was like Sue E had predicted before. As it approached the end of summer, there were fewer families that wanted to buy magic fans. The demand for magic fans had greatly decreased, so naturally the orders wouldn't come like before. Sui looked over the much quieter workshop and saw Heinz squatting in a corner with a disappointed look on his face. It was unknown what he was thinking about. Only when Sui came to his side and squatted down did Heinz react. Sui, when did you come? I just came. Sui revealed a smile before asking back. What? What are you thinking about? You look so worried. How can I not be worried? Heinz gave a bitter laugh and pointed at the workshop in front of him. Look, the orders for magic fans have decreased by this much, and we might not even be able to sell a single one next month. So how can I not be worried? If it goes on like this, the workshop might shut down next month. Isn't this the result that we've already expected? Sue E said in an uncaring voice. Heinz seriously looked at Sue E before suddenly saying, Sue E, tell me the truth. Are you prepared to give up on this magic fan workshop? Sue E was stunned. Who told you that I was giving it up? Then what about the new product you mentioned? Heinz reached his hand out to Sue. Don't think that I don't know. You helped Camby's Magic Machine Workshop develop that magic harvester. It seems like it's selling quite well. Adding in the fact that they were making the machines, their Magic Machine Workshop was very busy every day. Look at our Magic Fan Workshop. There's less and less work to do, and we might have to close down in the end. Tell me, aren't you favoring one over the other? So we didn't know whether to laugh or cry. I say, Heinz, what are you thinking about by yourself? Whether it's the Magic Fan Workshop or the Magic Machine Workshop, they're both the most important parts of our company. How could I just care about one and give up on the other? That's right, there's a lot of work to do in a Magic Machine Workshop. But if you think that I would give up on a Magic Fan Workshop, you're completely wrong. To tell you the truth, this workshop should change its name from today onwards. It shouldn't be called the Magic Fan Workshop. Rather, it should be called the Household Magic Machine Workshop. Household Magic Machine Workshop? Heinz was stunned. What does that mean? It means that this workshop won't just be producing magic fans. It will be producing all kinds of household magic machines. Didn't I have you make 30 magic air conditioners a while ago? Did you forget? Of course I wouldn't forget. But Sue E, that magic air conditioner isn't as popular as you said. After the 30 units were sold, there weren't any new orders at all. Sue E couldn't help rolling his eyes at him. Nonsense, the magic air conditioner costs 20 gold coins per unit. How could it be that easy to sell? Then again, it was already halfway through summer. So how could there be that many people buying a luxury item like the magic air conditioner? But you don't need to worry. The magic air conditioner isn't like the magic fan that can only be used in summer. It can also be used in winter. Used in winter? Are you kidding me? Heinz's eyes widened. Heinz's eyes popped out. The wind from that thing is that cool. Wouldn't it freeze people to death in winter? I say, Heinz, why are you so inflexible? Sue E said with a sigh of disappointment. Who told you that the magic air conditioner can only blow cold air? The so-called air conditioner means air conditioning. It can make the air cooler, but of course it can also make it empty. The air will become warmer. Let me tell you, when it gets cold, we'll start selling the magic air conditioner that can make the air warmer. I'm certain that it will sell well at that time. Heinz's eyes lit up. Is what you said true? There's really a way to make the air warmer? Well, have I ever lied to you? That's great. If it's like this, we'll earn a large amount when the time comes. Heinz excitedly stood up. Sue gave a helpless sigh. No matter how he tried to instill his business philosophy into Heinz had always been this small. It seemed like he was at most suited to be a factory manager and couldn't develop any further. This was something that couldn't be helped. A person's knowledge was related to their environment. Before meeting Sue E, Heinz was just a small general store owner. So how could he have any knowledge? After Heinz was excited for a bit, he suddenly thought of something and became depressed again. But Sue E, summer is over and there are still several months until winter. What do we do during this time? Sue E looked at him. Did you forget what I told you last time? Let me tell you a piece of good news. Steele and the others have almost finished researching the core magic array. Now I just need to spend some time to combine the magic array with a mechanical blueprint, and after a few tests, we can officially start production. If we move fast enough, we can finish it in less than 20 days. Really? That's great. Hearing that the workshop wouldn't stop working, Heinz let out a sigh of relief and calmed down. Seeing his worried appearance, Sue-Yi gave another helpless sigh. This time he wasn't sighing for Heinz. Rather, he was sighing for Sign's backwards industrial system. The electric fans of the previous world didn't have no work to do after summer. Now that no one was buying them, they could just store them and sell them next summer. Moreover, it was very easy to change the production line. The powerful industrial system of the previous world could guarantee that the electric fan factory could change the production line to make other products, so they wouldn't be stuck on the electric fan tree. But in Signs, because of the material, if the magic fan was delayed for a year, there would be a large pile of waste products next summer. Moreover, all the machines and workers in the magic fan workshop were specially made for the magic fan. If they wanted to change the production line, they had to redesign the machines and train the workers. This also meant that in the next 20 days, Sue-Yi had to keep working. Hey, establishing a complete industrial system. It really is easy to say, but it's harder than ascending to the heavens. Thinking of this, Sue-Yi couldn't help giving a bitter laugh. Oh no, if it's about ascending to the heavens, it isn't hard in a world filled with magicians. Chapter 48. In the small building where the Academy of Magic was, Sue-Yi, Steele, Akali, and Evita were sitting around a small table. For pairs of eyes were staring at a cylindrical object on the table without blinking. Traces of white mist floated out from the top of the cylindrical object. It rose up and floated onto the four people's faces, condensing into small droplets of water on their hair. However, the four of them didn't care as they continued to stare at the cylindrical object, as if there was something special about the black metal object that attracted them. I smell the fragrance. Akali suddenly shouted in excitement. Do you smell it? I smell it too. Steele also had a happy expression as she turned to look at Sue-Yi. Sue-Yi, this should be considered done, right? Sue-Yi sniffed but didn't reply. Instead, he turned to Evita. Evita, you're the best cook out of us, so you should be the one to judge if it's done or not. But it's different this time. Evita was surprised as she waved her hand to refuse. It's fine, it's just a change in form. The basic principle is still the same. Smell it. If it's done, we'll check the result. Sue-Yi said. Oh, all right then. Evita replied. She pushed aside the hair by her ear and leaned close to the cylindrical object. She took a deep breath and then closed her eyes to savor it. She then stood up and nodded at the three people who were full of expectation. Yes, it should be done. Then what are we waiting for? Let's get it done. Akali cheered as she reached towards the lid of the cylindrical object. Sue-Yi was shocked when he saw this. He quickly grabbed Akali's hand and stopped her. Do you want to be scalded to death? Sue-Yi angrily rebuked. Akali finally woke up and stuck her tongue out at Sue-Yi in embarrassment. Seeing that her right hand was still grabbed by Sue-Yi's large hand, Akali's face turned red. Although she was cheerful and lively, she had never had any intimate contact with a male outside of her family. However, Sue-Yi didn't think that much. After stopping Akali's actions, he let go of her hand. This made Akali let out a sigh of relief, but also a bit disappointed. Sue-Yi found a cloth and placed it in his hand before lifting the lid of the cylindrical object. As soon as the lid was lifted, a thick white mist accompanied by a strong fragrance wafted out, causing the entire room to be filled with the fragrance. When the fog dissipated, the four of them took a closer look and saw that the inside of the cylinder was filled to the brim with white, sparkling rice. It looked extremely tempting. Steele had already scooped a spoonful of rice and blew on it before putting it in her mouth. It's cooked just right. The taste isn't bad. Here, Sue-Yi, try it. Steele scooped another spoonful and very naturally put it in front of Sue-Yi's mouth. Sue-Yi swallowed it in one bite and chewed twice. He felt that the rice in his mouth was tender and delicious. It was soft and chewy at the same time. Just one bite was enough to stimulate one's appetite. It even made Sue-Yi feel that he could eat 2 big bowls of rice with it. Su, he had only eaten rice like this when he was very young. After that, the rice that he ate almost all lost that taste. And it's indeed better. Su, he laughed. Very good. This also means that our experiment is a success. Here, Akali, Evita, you guys come try it. You guys also contributed a lot to the success of this. Come, I say. Why do you two have such strange expressions? Akali and Evita looked at Su before looking at Steele. They looked at each other and smiled at the same time. Then they found another spoon to take 2 bites before nodding in satisfaction. Great. Chairman, this. What is this? Akali was suddenly stuck. The magic rice cooker. Su added. Oh, right, the magic rice cooker. Is this considered a complete success? It can't be considered a complete success, but there are still many things that can be improved. Su looked at the black cylinder on the table and thought that although he had made this thing based on the rice cooker on Earth, if he really calculated it, it was still lacking quite a bit. At least the rice cookers on Earth were completely insulated, so he didn't need to worry about burning his hand when he opened it. But this was a small problem. He just needed to make a few small changes when it was put into production. That's right, this magic rice cooker was the product that Su was preparing for the Magic Fan Workshop to produce. When summer had just passed, Su had already considered the problem that Heinz had been worried about for the past few days. After thinking about it, Su had a long-term plan and changed the Magic Fan Workshop to a household magic machine factory. As the name implied, the products that this workshop would produce in the future would all be household magic machines for normal families. Although they were limited by the conditions of the signs and couldn't copy many household appliances from Earth, there were many things that could be copied. The rice cooker was one of them. Compared to the magic fan, this magic rice cooker that was copied based on the principles of the rice cooker was much simpler. The entire research process had been completed in less than a week. While researching the magic rice cooker, Su found another advantage of the magic machine. It was that because the magic machine used magic from the magic array as its power source, it didn't need to be like the electrical appliances on Earth where it had to be converted into electricity and could directly generate the power needed. For example, this magic rice cooker. Compared to the electric rice cooker that used heat pipes to convert electricity into heat, the magic rice cooker directly used a low-level flame magic array. After pressing the switch, with the support of the magic crystal, this flame magic array would directly generate heat that could completely envelop the insides. Not only was the heat generated quickly, because of the characteristics of the magic array, the heat efficiency was very high. On Earth, there were many people who pursued the original taste of firewood. They felt that it tasted better than the electric rice cooker because the heat generated by firewood was higher and more direct, so it had a better effect than the heat generated by electricity. But this magic rice cooker didn't have this problem. Because of the careful research of Steele, Akali, and Evita, the heat generated by the flame magic array inside the magic rice cooker enveloped the insides, allowing the insides to be evenly heated. There was no flaw in the cooked rice at all. Su ate a few more mouthfuls of rice and was very satisfied. If he gave this thing to Heinz, he wouldn't look at him with hidden bitterness every day like a woman. Sir Chairman, sit down and eat together. On the other side, Evita had already tidied up a table and brought out a few dishes that she had already prepared. Oh, all right. Su sat down at the table with a smile. Seeing the 4 exquisite dishes and a meat soup that looked appetizing, he couldn't help saying with a smile, Evita, your culinary skills really aren't bad. Whoever marries you in the future really is blessed. Evita's hand that was scooping the rice froze, and her face turned a bit red. Hey, Uncle, you're harassing me. Steele tapped the table in front of Su and said with a cold snort, Let me tell you, Evita was very popular in our school. There were many male students who were head over heels for her. If they knew that an uncle like you was harassing the goddess in their hearts, do you believe that those fellows would charge over to take care of you? Su couldn't help laughing. It's that terrifying? All right, I'll just obediently eat and not speak nonsense. Evita brought the rice over with a red face and placed a bowl in front of Su. Sir Chairman, don't mention Steele's nonsense. If we're talking about popularity, Steele is the most popular person in our Lampury Royal Academy. I can't compare to her. That's right. If it wasn't for the fact that Steele's heart belonged to someone else, as long as she said a word, there would be a line of boys willing to chase her from here to the gates of Bandit City. A collie on the side gave an emotional sigh before asking Steele. Right, Steele, I always forgot to ask you. Didn't you always like that Vincent? How is it now? Did you look for him again after you graduated? I feel that you should at least tell him that you like him. Right? Vincent? Suyi's heart skipped a beat. Could it be that this was the male student that Steele liked before? But after seeing his true face, she called him a pervert. I did, but he was already engaged, so would I steal someone else's fiancé? Steele gave a casual shrug, looking like she didn't care at all. Sui seriously looked at Steele's expression and found that although she looked relaxed, under that relaxed expression, there was a trace of a shadow. It seemed like the hurt from this matter wouldn't fade in a short period of time. Engaged? Why didn't I hear about it? Who is he engaged to? That girl shouldn't be as beautiful as you, right? Steele, why don't you go and snatch him? I feel that with your... Akali. Seeing that Akali was about to keep asking, he suddenly spoke up and cut her off. What is it? Chairman? Akali was surprised before asking back. Also Evita, are you two interested in shooting an advertisement? Shooting an advertisement? Akali and Evita looked at each other, not understanding what Sui meant at all. Chapter 49. So, you don't need to help me out, I'm fine. Steele revealed a relaxed smile to Sui beside her. The two of them had already finished their lunch at the Academy of Magic, and Steele was planning on returning to the Magic Tower. Sui happened to be looking for great magician Carmilla as well, so they headed back to Carmilla's Magic Tower together. You're really fine? Sui looked at Steele with a frown and a look of doubt. I saw that your face didn't look too good. That's just... Steele thought about it and waved her hand in a slightly irritated manner. This matter isn't very pleasant. I feel disgusted just thinking about it. As long as you don't still have feelings for that fellow. Sui said with a shrug. Who would still have feelings for that kind of person? Steele angrily glared at Sui. Do you think I'm an idiot? I liked him before because I didn't see his true face and was fooled by his appearance. Thinking about it now, I really feel that I was very childish back then. I actually like someone because of their appearance. All right, I was indeed an idiot back then. Sui laughed. Being an idiot once isn't necessarily a bad thing. At least through this matter, you know that you can't judge a book by its cover. Compared to appearance, the heart is the most important. After all, it's rare to see someone as outstanding as me on the outside and on the inside. Steele revealed an expression of wanting to vomit. Can't you do something for me? I just finished my lunch. I don't want to vomit right now. Sui gave a snort and revealed a look of disdain. You don't believe me even when I'm telling the truth. You really can't be taught. But forget it. An outstanding man like me is like the moon in the sky. It can't be hidden even if I want to. I don't need a person with broken eyes like you to discover me. You're the one whose eyes are broken. Steele glared at Sui and suddenly burst into laughter. Once the laughter could no longer be held back, it was like water being released from a dam. It became more and more unstoppable. At first, Steele just covered her mouth and laughed. Later, the laughter became louder and louder. She simply held her stomach and laughed until she couldn't stand up straight. At first, Sui still had a straight face, but later, he couldn't help but laugh along with her. On this summer afternoon, the two fellows suddenly burst into laughter on the street for no reason, which naturally attracted the astonished gazes of the surrounding people. These two fellows were considered quite famous in Bandit City, so when the surrounding people saw them, they couldn't help pointing at them. Sui quickly discovered this and hurriedly pulled Steele's arm and fled. When they wildly ran in front of Carmilla's magic tower, Sui finally let go of Steele's arm. He pointed at the magic tower in front of him while panting. All right, you go and find your grandfather first. I have to head back to the lab first. Right, help me tell great magician Camilla that I have something to talk to him about. So I hope that he can give me some time. Why are you suddenly this polite? Steele looked at Sui. Didn't grandfather tell you a long time ago that you can see him whenever you want? He shook his head with a bitter smile. It wasn't a problem before, but after being scolded by him last time, I'm not certain if the old man will treat me differently now. Steele gave a cold snort. You deserve it. After saying this, Steele suddenly knit her brows and gave a sigh. She turned to look at the tall magic tower in front of her, and her expression became a bit regretful. Actually, not to mention you, I've always wanted to persuade grandfather. If he keeps being this stubborn, I'm afraid this magic tower. What's wrong with a magic tower? He could feel the sadness in Steele's voice, and he couldn't help asking in a surprised voice. Could it be that there's a problem with the magic tower? It shouldn't be, right? No matter what, His Excellency Camilla is a great magician. He has status in the kingdom. Steele shook her head. It's not this problem, but I can't tell you right now. However, I can't tell you about this for the time being. Wait for me to communicate with my grandfather. Then I'll find an opportunity to talk to you in detail. Perhaps I'll need your help when the time comes. Seeing how serious Steele was, he knit his brows. Hearing her tone, it seemed like great magician Camilla had met some trouble. There's no need to ask. Just tell me if there's anything I can help with. Steele, if it wasn't for you making an exception and recruiting me into this magic tower, I would have been forced to do other work to support myself, and I would have had no fate with magic, not to mention creating a company like this. Therefore, you played a decisive role in the fact that I can have these things now. Since it's like this, why are you being polite with me? Steele revealed a faint smile. Then do you know why I made an exception and recruited you? Oh, why? Because you helped me close the door when you came in. Steele blinked, and after throwing down these words, she turned to leave. Just because of this? He rubbed his nose and shook his head with a bitter smile. When Sui walked into the lab, he immediately caused a stir. Since there were more and more business for the Frestec Chamber of Commerce, He took more and more days off. In the end, he would only appear once every few days, and he would only stay for a short period of time each time before leaving. This made the colleagues in the lab forget that he was also a member of the lab. What was even stranger was that if it was anyone else, they would have already been chased out of the magic tower by great magician Camilla. But for great magician Camilla didn't say anything. It was like he didn't know what he was doing at all. So as time passed, the colleagues in the lab knew that Yi's position in great magician Camilla's heart was different from the others. Adding in the fact that the new flyer released more and more products, the company became stronger and stronger. Yi's position in the hearts of the colleagues also rose. Now that He had appeared in the lab, naturally he wouldn't be ignored by everyone like in the beginning and wouldn't be treated with hostility like before. Rather, he was warmly welcomed by everyone. Hey, E, why are you suddenly free to come back today? Latte was the first to jump out, coming over to E with a smile. If you didn't come back, we would have forgotten that we still had a colleague like you. Latte, what nonsense are you saying? Even if we forgot about anyone, how could we forget about E? No matter what, we worked hard for that magic fan for a long time. Don't you think so, E? This colleague was naturally one of the 10 colleagues that helped E draw the magic fan array. That's right. There's no way to forget this. Another colleague came to Yi's side with a loud laugh. He patted Yi's shoulder and suddenly asked in a low voice, Hey, E, does your company still have this kind of work? If there is, why don't you introduce me to it? Hearing this question, the entire lab suddenly fell silent. He looked around and found that other than a few people, the rest of his colleagues were all looking at him with expectant gazes. Even the colleagues that weren't looking over were clearly listening to him. They definitely didn't seem like they didn't care at all. He was secretly surprised. These colleagues were very disdainful of drawing magic arrays before. So why were they suddenly so enthusiastic? The only explanation was that there was a change that he didn't know about. There is this kind of work, but with everyone's magic power, isn't it a bit of a waste of talent? E replied with a smile, while seriously observing everyone's reaction. However, after seriously observing, he found something that shocked him even more. Why don't I see Cimarat, Renault, and Wella? It can't be that the 3 of them asked for leave like me, right? You don't know. Latte looked at E in surprise, then realized. All right, you haven't been here for many days, so of course you don't know. The three of them aren't working here anymore. I heard that they are now working for a merchant guild in Southtan City. Working for that merchant guild. Working for a merchant guild? Sui was stunned. With their power, they can't be guards for some merchant guild, right? Putting Cimarron aside, with Renault and Wella's arrogance, how could they agree? No, of course not. How could they be willing to be guards for a merchant guild? Latte shook her head. I heard that they're doing some kind of research. All right, Sui, it seems like you have some relationship with New Flyer. What does it have to do with our merchant guild? Sui was even more stunned. I don't know the specifics. I only know that the merchant guild gives them a very high salary. In any case, before Cimarron left, he said that it was much higher than his salary here. Is that so? Sui frowned as he fell into deep thought. Cimarron was the second strongest in this research room, so his salary was naturally the highest, even higher than Renault's, 40 gold coins a month. If the merchant guild he went to gave him a much higher salary than here, then it wouldn't be a small amount. If they gave Renault and Wella the same salary, then it wouldn't be strange for them to agree. All right, if the three of them were poached by that merchant guild, then what about you? Why didn't they poach you? Sui asked again. He didn't expect that when they heard this question, the expressions of his colleagues in the research room all became strange. Sui immediately understood there was no exception to this. All of them had been poached. The only reason why they were still here was because the conditions hadn't been discussed yet. Chapter 50. An hour later, Sui saw great magician Camilla on the top floor of the magic tower. After looking at His Excellency Great Magician for a while, Sui couldn't help secretly letting out a sigh in his heart. Since the last time he saw His Excellency Great Magician, it had already been close to 20 days. However, in just 20 days, His Excellency Great Magician had clearly become much older. Other than his tired expression, the most conspicuous thing was that His Excellency Great Magician's dark brown hair had already turned quite a bit white. For a great mage, who had always been full of energy and vigor, to become like this, he must have encountered a great deal of pressure in the past few days. After seeing Sui, Great Magician Camilla seemed to have forgotten about the matter. Just like before, he nodded at Sui with a pleasant expression, indicating for him to sit down. Sui, what did you come to find me for this time? Although he looked tired, Great Magician Camilla's expression was still serious. I'll tell you first. If you're here to discuss business, you can leave now. Sui thought for a bit before saying with a smile, Your Excellency, Great Magician, I'm afraid I'll have to disappoint you. I came this time to ask you some questions about magic because I've met some problems that I can't solve for now. But now I've changed my mind. It just so happens that I want to talk to you about business cooperation. Great Magician Camilla knit his brows and angrily said, Then scram for me as soon as possible. You fellows, all of you only care about money. What qualifications do you have to be a magician? Sui maintained his faint smile, and his expression didn't change. Your Excellency, Great Magician, I think your words are a bit wrong. It's wrong to only care about money, but this isn't related to whether one has the qualifications to be a magician, right? Humph. A fellow who only knows how to make money and doesn't know how to study magic. Do you have the qualifications? Sui shook his head. Your Excellency, Great Magician, I have a question to ask you. Tell me, do you need money to study magic? Great Magician Camilla's expression froze, and his expression changed. First it was anger, then it was doubt, and finally it was a look of helplessness. Of course you need money to study magic, and not only do you need money, you also need a lot of money. Great Magician Camilla gave a sigh, looking a bit dispirited. So, being a magician shouldn't be opposed to making money. Rather, it should be a good combination. Your Excellency, Great Magician, don't you think so? Great Magician Camilla looked at Sui and said, Great Magician Camilla, laugh at me. Great Magician Camilla, laugh at me. Magician Camilla was Magician Camilla Magician, Great Magician. Magician Camilla, Magician. and said, "Magician, magician, magician, Megillah Magi. Magician, 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 Megillah, magician, to steal did tell me a bit, and I also heard a bit from my colleagues." Sui paused before continuing. "Your Excellency, great magician, I feel that you should change your mind and try combining magic and business. I hate merchants, and I hate the smell of merchants tainting pure magic even more." Great magician Camilla coldly said. "But you don't hate money, right?" Sui asked. Great magician Camilla gave a cold snort, but he didn't refute him. Sui immediately seized the opportunity to say, "That's right, money is just a tool. You only hate the people who use this tool to hurt you. You don't hate money itself. There is no good or evil in money itself. If you use it well, it is a very useful tool. If you don't use it well, it can also bring great destruction." Great magician Camilla, if you were given enough money, what do you think you would do with it? Nonsense. If I had enough gold coins, I would definitely invest them all in a magic research. Great magician Camilla directly replied. But you don't have enough gold coins right now, right? Great magician Camilla's expression changed, and he couldn't say a word for a while. Seeing him like this, Sui slightly shook his head. He thought that perhaps great magician Camilla's problem was even more serious than he thought. When the lad found that Carmilla, Renaud, and Wella had left the magic tower, Sui wasn't that surprised. However, when he found that the hearts of his colleagues were wavering and they all had the intention of leaving the magic tower, Sui immediately felt that something was wrong. After continuously asking around, Sui finally received an answer that he didn't expect at all. So it turned out that great magician Camilla didn't have any money. Although great magician Camilla didn't have much money and the magicians working in the magic tower secretly complained, there was no problem in maintaining the normal operation of the magic tower. But recently, many magicians found that there was a problem with the normal operation of the magic tower. First, there was a shortage of magic materials needed for research, and then some of the magicians' reasonable requests were rejected. Finally, and most importantly, great magician Carmilla actually owed everyone their wages for the first time. Although they were only late for 2 days and had already been paid back, the delay this time made everyone vigilant. In the circle of magicians, there were many secrets that weren't secrets. So everyone quickly found out that great magician Camilla had met a large problem. His funds were lacking compared to before, and he might not even be able to maintain the magic tower. After hearing this news, the magicians in the magic tower were all shocked and naturally began to look for a way out. Cimarat, Renaud, and Wella had already left, and the colleagues in the lab couldn't sit still. When Sui, who was already considered a big boss in everyone's eyes, appeared, the colleagues all revealed a strange enthusiasm. After hearing this, Sui immediately went to find Steele, who had returned to the magic tower with him. After repeated questioning, he finally obtained the truth from Steele's mouth. So what the colleagues had heard was true. Great magician Camilla had indeed met a large problem with his funds. Normally speaking, if one didn't count the other income of a great magician, then a great magician would have 2 stable sources of income. One came from the Sorcerer's Guild. When a magician broke through the limit and reached the great magician level, they would have the qualifications to enjoy the special benefits of the Sorcerer's Guild. This benefit had a strict ranking. The most important method was the strength of the great magician, and the second was the number of years they had been a great magician. Great magician Camilla was currently a 3-star great magician, and according to the rules, he would receive 200 gold coins from the Sorcerer's Guild each year. Other than that, since he had been a great magician for 23 years, he would also receive an additional 50 gold coins. Adding it all together, it was 250 gold coins. The other source of income came from the country the magicians were in. This was because magicians were an important power in every country, and magicians at the great magician level were very precious. So, no matter which country it was, they would all give great magicians special financial support. Although the Lampari Kingdom was only a small country in the signs, great magician Camilla could still receive 2,000 gold coins from the Lampari Kingdom's royal family each year. This was because great magician Camilla wasn't like other great magicians who worked with companies, agreeing to protect those companies while receiving the support of those companies. So, this income of 2,250 gold coins was equal to Great Magician Camilla's annual income. If nothing changed, this 2,250 gold coins would be enough to support the daily expenses of the Magic Tower in a small city like Banda City. But there had been a change this year. The main reason for the change was the Lampari Kingdom's financial support. Before the fall harvest each year, the Lampari Kingdom's royal family would give money to the great magicians of the kingdom. However, half a month ago, the Lampari Kingdom's royal family suddenly announced that because the kingdom's finances were tight, the royal family had to lower the standard of financial support for the great magicians. As for Great Magician Camilla, it was lowering his 2,000 gold coins a year to 1,000 gold coins, suddenly cutting it in half. Great Magician Camilla was already struggling to maintain the Magic Tower, and now that he had suddenly lost 1,000 gold coins, it could be said that he instantly collapsed. 1,000 gold coins was half of Great Magician Camilla's annual income. Suddenly losing this much, not only could he not continue his magic research because of the lack of funds, he couldn't even pay the salaries of the magicians under him. Grandfather even told me that he might close the Magic Tower. When Steele said this to Sue E., she revealed a very helpless smile. Although from my point of view, I feel that this is better. Because if he didn't have to worry about the Magic Tower, his grandpa's life would be more relaxed. But I also know that grandfather spent a lot of effort to build this Magic Tower, putting in a lot of effort. If he is forced to close it now, he might not be able to accept it. After hearing Steele's explanation, Sue E. only thought for a bit before deciding to go to the top floor of the Magic Tower to see Great Magician Camilla. In front of this old man who seemed serious, but was actually very wise, Sue E. didn't plan on hiding his thoughts and goals. He directly pointed out this cruel fact to Great Magician Camilla. Great Magician Camilla, you have no money. Chapter 51. That's right, I don't have enough gold coins right now, and I can't even support the operation of this Magic Tower. Hearing Sue Yi's cold words, Great Magician Camilla didn't look hurt at all. He just gave a soft sigh and happily admitted this fact. But Sue E., I don't like magic being stained with money. This is my principle, so you don't need to worry about changing my mind. Sue E. slightly knit his brows. Your Excellency, Great Magician, can I ask you something? Why do you feel that? When magic and money are combined, it will definitely be stained with money. In my opinion, this is a complete fallacy. Like I said earlier, money is innocent. As for how it is used, it all depends on the will of the person using it. You think that the combination of magic and money isn't good, but I think it's the opposite. If magic and money are properly combined, it will produce a very wonderful change. Beautiful? Great Magician Camilla gave a strong snort. Great Magician Camilla gave a heavy snort. Turning a fellow with strong talent as a magician into a lowly merchant, is this the so-called beautiful change? Sue E. knit his brows even deeper. Your Excellency, Great Magician, your prejudice is too serious. Perhaps in the tradition of the signs, magicians have a higher status than merchants. But in my opinion, the things that the merchants of the signs do are much better than magicians. Nonsense. Great Magician Camilla slapped the table and angrily stood up. He pointed at Sue E. and reprimanded. You actually dare say that magicians can't compare to those dirty merchants? What can those merchants do? They only know how to steal the money in other people's hands. Whether it is their eyes or their minds, they're all filled with dirty gold coins. They don't even care about their own honor at all. These fellows, you're actually comparing them to magicians? Are you trying to humiliate me? Then Your Excellency, Great Magician, what are magicians doing? Sue E. said with a cold smile. Researching more powerful magic and killing people faster and more efficiently. You. Great Magician Camilla wanted to reprimand Sue E. for speaking nonsense again, but he suddenly stopped. Because he suddenly found that Sue E. wasn't wrong at all. Yes, the mages in the signs had a high status, but why? Of course, it was because mages were far more powerful than ordinary people, and the most obvious point was that, on the battlefield, mages' magic was far more lethal than ordinary soldiers. In the history of signs, There had been countless wars between different countries, and in these wars, magicians had always played a vital role. There were even some particularly powerful mages, such as archmages and grand mages. Just one or two of them could change the situation of a battle and affect the entire war. Thus, for a long time, the magicians of the signs were revered and respected by the people, and their status was constantly rising. But no matter how high the status of a magician was, it couldn't change the fact that Sui was completely right. What the magicians had always done was to research more powerful magic. As for why they were researching more powerful magic, of course, it was to have a stronger effect on the battlefield. To put it bluntly, it was to kill people faster and more efficiently. Thinking of this, great magician Camilla's face that had turned red from Sui's words instantly turned pale, and the hand pointing at Sui began to violently tremble. After a while, he sat back down in his chair and couldn't speak for a while. Sui gave a sigh and shook his head. If it wasn't for the special situation, he wouldn't be willing to be this direct in front of great magician Camilla. But this was indeed the true thoughts in his heart. He could understand why mages had such a high status in the signs, but that didn't mean he agreed with this. To Sui, it was important to have powerful strength because they could protect themselves and the things they cared about when necessary. But other than this, what was more important was their normal lives. Humans went from barbarism to civilization because they wanted to pursue a better life. Because of this, humans invented various tools, going from the ancient Stone Age to the highly developed civilization on Earth. With the development of human civilization, humans went from not having enough to eat in the beginning to not having to worry about food and clothing. They could even go into the sky, go into the sea, and even go into space. If they lost this, human civilization would lose the motivation to move forward, and they would be no different from wild beasts. Magic was very powerful, but Sui was more willing to use magic to increase the quality of life of people. So he combined the power of magic and used his mechanical knowledge to invent the magic fan, allowing the people of Banda City to enjoy a cool breeze on a hot summer day. Then he invented the magic harvester, greatly increasing the efficiency of harvesting wheat. It also allowed Viscount Leslie and the other nobles to have confidence in planting more wheat next year, indirectly increasing the grain yield of Banda City. After this, he wanted to invent even more magic machines, helping the people of this world obtain a better life through these magic machines. He even hoped that he could create a complete industrial system in the signs, letting the people of the signs live the same lives as normal people on Earth. Sui knew that it would be very hard to accomplish this dream, but he wouldn't shrink back. Because in the process of inventing these magic machines, not only did he find the joy of studying machines that he had lost 3 years ago, he also found the joy of changing the world. Now, the first thing he wanted to change was great magician Camilla's thoughts. Your Excellency, great magician, forgive me for speaking bluntly, but although the merchants are like you said, their eyes and minds are filled with gold coins, it is because of this that they will think of ways to produce goods and sell them. It is also because of these benefits that the goods and the signs circulate, and people don't always lack this and that. Perhaps there are many scum among them who sell their conscience to earn gold coins, but we can't deny the changes they bring, right? Great magician Camilla was silent as his expression kept changing. After a while, he suddenly gave a long sigh and looked at Sui. Sui, I admit that your words are reasonable, but this isn't related to what you really want to say, right? Speak, what do you want to say? Sui seriously looked at great magician Camilla's expression and found that he had calmed down, so he couldn't help revealing a smile. Great magician Camilla was a wise old man after all. He really wasn't that easy to knock down. Your Excellency, great magician, let's return to the real problem. You don't have enough gold coins to support the consumption of the magic tower. So are you willing to cooperate with me? I can definitely provide you with enough gold coins. Hey, I won't hide it from you. My recent profits aren't bad. Sui said with a smile. Humph. Wanted me to cooperate with you again. Great magician Camilla gave a cold snort and waved his hand. There's no need to say anything else. I already said that this is my principle and it won't change. Your Excellency, great magician, how about you let me finish? Sue, he continued. I think that the reason why you hate combining magic and business is because one, once you combine business, it will affect your magic research. Two, you feel that helping merchants earn money from normal people will make your heart uneasy. Isn't that right? Great Magician Camilla gave another snort, but he didn't object. Very good. If you're worried about this, then I can tell you that if you cooperate with me, there won't be any problems in these two aspects. Let's not talk about whether it will affect my magic research for now. If I cooperate with you, you won't earn money from normal people? Great Magician Camilla asked in a muffled voice. You think I'll believe your childish reason? Hearing the loosening of Great Magician Camilla's tone, Sue laughed. He took out a blueprint from his chest and placed it on the table in front of Great Magician Camilla. Of course, I won't say that I won't earn money from normal people, but if I told you that those people are eager for me to earn their money, what would you think? Are you joking? Great Magician Camilla's eyes opened wide. Great Magician Camilla glared at him. Who in this world is eager for others to earn their money? It's very simple. It's because they need something, and other than me, no one can give it to them. These things are very important to them. Do you think that in this kind of situation, they would care about me earning a bit of money? Sue said with a smile. How could there be something like this? Great Magician Camilla glared at Sue, but he couldn't help looking at the blueprint. After looking it over, Great Magician Camilla said in a surprised voice, What is this thing? Why does it look so strange? What is it used for? Sue thought that since he started inventing magic machines, he didn't know how many times he had heard this question. This thing is the special thing I mentioned to you just now. With this thing, it will solve many problems that have troubled them for a long time. Even if they know that I rely on this to earn money, they will definitely be grateful to me. Without knowing it, Sue had already arrived beside Great Magician Camilla and leaned over to explain the blueprint. First, this thing is called the magic plowing machine. Chapter 52. This time, when Sue left Great Magician Camilla's private laboratory, he was no longer covered in dirt like last time. Rather, he had his head held high and his chest puffed out with a proud smile on his face. Steele had been waiting outside for an entire 2 hours and was already very anxious. When she saw Sue come out, she immediately charged over and looked at Sue as she asked, How was it? How was it? What did grandfather say? Sue smiled as he reached out his right index and middle finger to Steele, making a V sign for victory. Then he remembered that Steele didn't understand the meaning of this sign, so he quickly said, Relax, His Excellency Great Magician agreed. He agreed? Steele called out in surprise. She looked over Sue with a face filled with curiosity. Grandfather actually agreed. I say, Sue, how did you convince grandfather? Could it be that you actually used the legendary dark attributed charm magic on grandfather? How could I know that kind of thing? Sue snappily looked at Steele. Then again, your grandfather is a great magician, and I am just a trivial person who hasn't even passed the magician certification exam. If I used magic on him, would I not die quickly enough? Then how did you get grandfather to agree? He hates merchants the most, not to mention cooperating with merchants. Steele asked in a confused voice. This? Sue paused and gave a helpless sigh. His Excellency, Great Magician, had no other choice. In the end, a magician also needs to eat. Your grandfather's facing a very real problem. He doesn't have any money. Although this old man is stubborn, compared to this magic tower that he put all his heart into, this stubbornness doesn't count for anything. Besides, cooperating with me is always better than cooperating with other merchants. No matter what, I am still a merchant with a conscience. At the same time, I also have the identity of a magician, so it will be relatively easier for the Great Magician to accept. A trace of sadness appeared on Steele's face. She gave a slight nod and said with a sigh, That's right. If it wasn't for the fact that there was no other way, grandfather definitely wouldn't have agreed to do this. After saying this, she turned to look at the door of Great Magician Camilla's private laboratory. I'll go check on him. Seeing Steele open the door and walk in, Sue thought for a moment and turned to leave the magic tower. After talking to Great Magician Camilla for an entire 2 hours, Su Yi had gained quite a bit. The most important harvest was naturally the cooperation he had with great magician Camilla. Since they were researching magic machines, magic naturally played an important role in this. Before this, most of the magic machines Su Yi researched could be considered light machines. The magic arrays they used weren't high-level magic arrays, so he could complete them with his current strength. But when Su Yi was preparing to develop the magic plowing machine, he met a problem that he had already expected. It was that his magic power wasn't enough. Because the magic plowing machine needed to pluck large amounts of soil, it required power that surpassed the magic machines Su Yi had developed before. After Su Yi calculated it, he determined that if this magic plowing machine used a wind-attributed array, it would require at least a 6th-grade wind-attributed array. Although Su Yi's magic power had been increasing by leaps and bounds, it had only been a short time. Right now, he was only between a 3rd and 4th-grade magician, so he could only grasp a few 4th-grade spells and magic arrays. He couldn't do anything with a 6th-grade magic array. Even if Steel, Evita, and Akali were stronger than Su Yi, they couldn't complete a 6th-grade magic array. So Su Yi was helpless. So he braced himself to come find great magician Camilla for help. Speaking of this, Su Yi should thank the Lampari Kingdom's royal family. If it wasn't for them suddenly cutting great magician Camilla's budget, causing His Excellency Great Magician to suffer an economic crisis, Su Yi would have been kicked out by him. How could he have convinced great magician Camilla to agree to cooperate with him? Su Yi wasn't in a rush for results. He knew that even if great magician Camilla agreed to cooperate, his prejudice against merchants wouldn't disappear that easily. So this time he just took out the idea of the magic plowing machine for great magician Camilla to research and didn't make any other requests. It had to be said, a great magician was a great magician. Not only did he surpass Su Yi's group in terms of magic power, he also surpassed them in terms of vision, understanding, and realm. After Su Yi explained the concept of the magic plowing machine, great magician Camilla only said a single sentence that stunned Su Yi for a while. Since it's for plowing the soil, why are you using a wind-attributed array and not an earth-attributed array? When he heard this, Su Yi was stunned for a bit before slapping his forehead. Idiot! Great magician Camilla wasn't wrong at all. Since the magic plowing machine was for plowing the soil, using an earth-attributed array was the simplest and most effective method. It was far from being able to compare to using a wind-attributed array to drive the plowing machine. Su Yi immediately understood that he was completely limited by his fixed thinking. This was because in the original world, almost all machines used various kinds of energy to drive them before using that energy to drive them. So when he was researching magic machines, Su Yi had always thought of this. The first magic machine that Su Yi developed in signs was the magic fan, and he found that using a wind-attributed array to drive it, it could completely imitate the machines on Earth. So when he researched after that, he always imitated the machines on Earth, using the wind-attributed array the most. However, now that he was reminded by great magician Camilla, Su Yi suddenly found that he had made a mistake. Signs was different from Earth in the end, and the biggest difference was magic. Although it couldn't compare to the highly developed industrial system on Earth, magic had its own advantages. Su Yi had sighed before about the efficiency of the magic array in converting magic crystals, but now he found that magic also had a powerful advantage. Just take this magic plowing machine, for example. According to Su Yi's design, it was similar to the plowing machines on Earth, using a wind-attributed array to drive it. Because this opportunity to loosen the soil had been barren for a long time, and the soil was rather hard, Su Yi had considered a higher requirement when designing it. In the end, he decided to use at least a 6th-grade wind array. But after being reminded by great magician Camilla, Su Yi quickly changed his mind and used an earth-attributed array. He found that he only needed a trivial 2nd-grade earth-attributed array, the earth-splitting array, to meet this requirement. As long as he designed it a bit more, the effect would be much stronger than Su Yi's previous design. During this process, What Sui cared about the most was not that the design of the magic plowing machine could be simplified and the cost could be lowered. Rather, it was that his thoughts had suddenly been broadened. If it was said that Sui had only used the rich mechanical knowledge he had on Earth and borrowed the power of magic to make machines one by one, then after this, Sui found that there was more to magic. He could completely change his design and perfectly combine magic with his mechanical knowledge. In other words, the magic machines that Sui had developed before could only be considered magic-powered machines. This new magic plowing machine that he had developed with great magician Camilla was a true product that combined magic and machines. It represented the true fusion of signs and Earth's civilizations. Thinking of this, Sui's steps unknowingly became lighter. His heart of research as a mechanical engineer was already burning. He couldn't wait to return to the factory and begin developing the new magic plowing machine with the dwarves led by Camby. But when Sui stepped onto the small path leading to the factory and looked into the distance, he was surprised to find that the space in front of the two factories was filled with people. It was so dark that there wasn't a single gap left. Seeing this noisy scene in front of him, Sui's heart skipped a beat. Could it be that something happened? Chapter 53. The worry in Sui's heart only lasted for a few seconds before he came back to his senses. Oh, I remember now. Today is the day we start recruiting workers. Many days ago, Sui had already told Hines that in order to increase production and increase production capacity, they needed to recruit more workers. But whether it was the second-generation magic fan, the production magic machines, or the small magic harvester, there were many orders. It caused the two workshops and the entire factory to be at full capacity, so Hines didn't have time to take care of this matter at all. Summer was finally over, and the orders for the magic fan gradually decreased, so Hines gradually became free. After a period of preparation, he finally decided to officially start recruiting workers today. Hines had already reported this matter to Sui yesterday, but because Sui had finally reached a cooperation with Great Magician Camilla, and because Great Magician Camilla's words had opened his mind, he was very excited and had forgotten about it. I never thought that there would be this many people applying. Could it be that all these people in Banna City have nothing to do? But this isn't right. Sui looked up at the sky and found that the sun was already leaning to the west. It's already afternoon. Why are there still so many people here? Could it be that Hines was wasting time this entire morning? Sui moved towards the factory in a confused manner, but he found that the path in front of the workshop was completely filled with people. He couldn't even approach the workshop door at all. Helplessly, Sui could only pat the person in front of him, wanting them to move aside. However, he was fiercely glared at by a young man who seemed to be in his early 20s. What are you doing? Honestly, line up. Sui could only give a bitter smile. It was good that Hines could let these people know how to line up, but couldn't he let these fellows line up a bit more? Looking around, Sui found that Alex was in charge of maintaining order on the outside, so he quickly walked over. Chairman, you're back? Seeing Sui suddenly appear, Alex called out in a pleasantly surprised voice. Sui immediately called this bad in his heart. Sure enough, when they heard Alex call out President, the people who came to apply for the position all turned to look at him. After these gazes landed on Sui, there were clearly countless more doubts. Sui looked like he was in his 20s. How could he be the president of New Flyer? While these people were still suspicious, Sui grabbed Alex's arm and squeezed into the crowd. These people all recognized Sui, and seeing him lead the way, although they were doubtful, they still opened a path for him. This allowed Sui to smoothly enter the household magic machine workshop. The situation in the workshop was better than outside, but it was still crowded with people. Other than the workers in the driver's room, there were 20 unfamiliar faces. They were currently working on the magic fan assembly line, and it seemed like they were in the middle of a test. When Sui and Alex came in, Hines, who was supervising the test, saw them from the corner of his eye. He came forward in a daze and asked in a low voice, "Why are you back? Didn't you say that you were going to do the final research on the magic rice cooker today?" Sui looked at Hines and couldn't help giving a soft laugh. Since the magic fan production was about to stop, Heinz had been very concerned about the new magic rice cooker that Sue E promised him. When Sue E said that they were going to do the final research on the magic rice cooker today, he took over all the recruitment work and let Sue E be in charge of the research. Relax, the magic rice cooker has already been developed. We'll enter the test production phase tomorrow, and it'll be in production in less than a week. Sue E patted Heinz's shoulder as he spoke with a smile. As expected, once he heard Sue Yi's words, Heinz immediately nodded with a smile. That's good, that's good. I was just worried that you wanted me to hire 100 workers, and what would happen if they didn't have anything to do. Sue E helplessly rolled his eyes. He thought that Heinz wouldn't be able to change this kind of mentality no matter what. Of course, he knew that this kind of personality problem was hard to change, so he gave up on this problem. He pointed at the unfamiliar faces working on the assembly line and asked, Heinz, it can't be that you're letting these fellows work on it before deciding whether to hire them or not, right? Heinz looked at Sue E with a confused gaze. Could it be that I shouldn't? If I don't let them try, how do I know if they can do it or not? If they can't, I'll have to fire them. So wouldn't that be a waste of time? It can't be, right? This is the simplest work. As long as they aren't idiots, how could they not learn it? Sue E was instantly stunned. Look at the 100 slaves Viscount Leslie lent us. They all learned very quickly. Could it be that these fellows can't compare to the slaves? Heinz knit his brows as he looked at Sue E with a confused look. I say, Sue E, I feel that you seem to look down on the slaves. Let me tell you, you really don't have to believe me. Although the slaves have low statuses, since they can be taken as slaves by Viscount Leslie, there aren't idiots among them. So of course they learn quickly. On the contrary, there are quite a few idiots among the people who came to apply. There were quite a few people who were chased away by me this morning because they couldn't even learn the most basic assembly, and there were even 2 people who were injured while learning how to operate the magic thread rolling machine. Tell me, compared to the slaves, who is the idiot? Sue E was speechless. He turned to look at the incomparably simple production magic machines in the workshop and the assembly line that was even more simple. He thought that if this work was on Earth, it would be something that even the most normal workers could master. Unless they were idiots, how could they not master it? After a while, he finally reacted. There is a large difference between signs and Earth, which was the level of education of normal people. The social system of the continent was still between a slave society and a feudal society, so productivity was low. It was already hard for normal people to fill their stomachs, not to mention having the energy and money to receive an education, so normal people had a lower level of education. On Earth, most countries had already implemented basic education, so normal people had a higher chance of receiving an education in signs. People who received an education generally had better comprehension and learning abilities than people who didn't receive an education. If they entered a factory, it was naturally much easier for them to learn the basic skills of the factory. If one used the language of Earth to describe it, this was Earth's advantage over signs in terms of human resources. There were many things that Sue E took for granted on Earth, but it was a different matter in signs. Thinking of the shock he received from great magician Camilla, Sue E seemed to understand something. He gave a slight nod and seriously said, you're right. In short, I'm giving this job to you, so we'll do as you say. But Heinz, it's best if you hurry up. There are still many people waiting outside. Then again, we only need to recruit 100 people for now, so it shouldn't be that hard to gather, right? It isn't hard. Heinz's expression suddenly became a bit unnatural. After pausing for a bit, he suddenly lowered his voice and said to Sue, Sue E, I'll tell you the truth, don't be angry. When they heard that our factory was recruiting, there are many people who wanted me to introduce them to them. I've known those people for a long time, so it wasn't good for me to reject them. Sue E revealed a faint smile and patted Heinz's shoulder again as he said, I forgot to tell you, there are a total of 100 people being recruited this time. 10 of them will be decided by you. I won't care. Of course, you have to guarantee that the people recruited can do their work normally and can't affect the progress of the entire factory. Understood? Heinz's eyes instantly lit up and he nodded. I understand. Sir Chairman, you really are too good. Su-yi calmly accepted Heinz's clearly not very good flattery. He thought that Heinz was indeed very stingy. If it was a company on Earth with a large shareholder like Heinz, not to mention a trivial 10% of the jobs, he would have swallowed all the jobs. Su-yi didn't mind Heinz's request at all. Things like relationships, whether it was in signs or on Earth, were very important. Chapter 54. After watching the recruitment process from the side for a bit, Su-yi silently left and went to the magic machine workshop. Since the magic plowing machine needed a new design, of course he had to discuss it with the dwarves in charge of forging. Unlike the household magic machine workshop led by Heinz that was close to stopping, the dwarves led by Camby were incomparably busy during this time. After seeing the powerful harvesting effects of the small magic harvester, all the nobles in Bana City that needed to farm had sent orders to the new flyer. Although the first 17 orders had been completed, there were now 31 that the dwarves needed to work on. Even if the dwarves' production efficiency was gradually increasing, if they wanted to complete these orders, they had to work harder. In the past half a month, with Camby as the leader, all the dwarves in the magic machine workshop had been working overtime until late at night. Therefore, Su-yi proposed to give the dwarves extra overtime pay, but it was firmly rejected by Camby. This was because to the dwarves, completing these orders was their job. Even if the time limit was a bit short, forcing them to work overtime, work was work. If they couldn't finish the orders in time, it meant that they weren't capable enough. Therefore, they needed the company to pay extra overtime, which was clearly an insult to them. Su-yi couldn't understand the dwarves' logic, but Camby was glaring at him, so he couldn't insist on his opinion. He could only give up this suggestion and help them order the Sachi Manor's wine as compensation. This suggestion was greatly welcomed by the dwarves, but under Camby's supervision, the dwarves had no choice but to strictly control their desire to taste the wine. They would only drink to their heart's content after completing the orders. Thinking of the disappointed looks the dwarves had when they heard Camby's decision, Su-yi couldn't help finding it funny. It had to be said, these dwarves were just too honest. If all the dwarves had this kind of personality, it wasn't strange that they were defeated in the race war with the humans several thousand years ago. Of course, as the chairman of the company, Su-yi had to consider another problem. Now, it wasn't just the household magic machine workshop led by Heinz that needed to recruit workers. The magic machine workshop also needed to recruit some workers. According to the current situation of the magic machine workshop, the new recruits could only be dwarves for now. When these dwarves had lived here for a longer time and the gap between them and humans had basically disappeared, it would be feasible to recruit humans to fill in. While Su-yi was considering this problem, he had already arrived at the magic machine workshop. Just as they entered the workshop, they heard Kanbai's booming voice. "Hey, take a look. This is the new magic harvester we've made during this time. Let me tell you, this thing is simply too useful. I've seen it with my own eyes. An entire acre of wheat can be harvested in less than an hour with this thing. Do you think it's fast?" Su-yi was confused. Camby's words were completely right, but which dwarf in the workshop hadn't participated in the forging of the small magic harvester? Who was he trying to explain to? Looking up, Su-yi saw that beside Camby's short and sturdy body in the middle of the workshop, there was a middle-aged man who was fat and could be described as round. "Chairman Farsak, when did you come?" Su-yi took a look and said in a surprised voice. Hearing Su-yi's voice, the dwarves and Chairman Farsak all turned over. As soon as he saw Su-yi, Chairman Farsak's round face revealed an exaggerated smile as he came forward with his arms wide open. "Ha! Ha! Chairman Su, I was prepared to go to Bana City to look for you, but I never thought that you would actually come back. This really is great." Su-yi hugged him and immediately let go. He looked over Chairman Farsak and found that he was a bit thinner compared to last time. He said in a confused voice, "Chairman Farsak, since you were coming, why didn't you inform me ahead of time? I could have gone to the city to welcome you." Chairman Farsak laughed. "Chairman Su, you really are too polite. With our current relationship, how could there be a need for such formalities?" Su-yi revealed a faint smile, thinking that this Chairman Farsak really knew how to get close. Their current relationship? Strictly speaking, it was just a cooperative relationship. Su-yi sold him 5 machine tools last time and sent several skilled workers to Saltan City to help the Farsak Chamber of Commerce build a complete second-generation variable speed magic fan production line. They had interacted many times during this time, so their relationship could be considered quite harmonious. But other than this, how close was it? That wasn't necessarily the case. When Su-yi sold the 5 machine tools to the Farsak Chamber of Commerce, it was written in the contract that the maintenance of the 5 machine tools, the replacement of parts, and the daily maintenance could only be done by New Flyer. Moreover, each service had to be paid, and it wasn't cheap. If it was said that Chairman Farsak couldn't see that Su-yi was earning large amounts of profit from this, that was impossible. But only New Flyer could complete this service. Chairman Farsak knew that Su-yi was earning large amounts of profit from him, but he could only pinch his nose and accept it. He even had to work hard to build a good relationship with Su-yi. After all, the magic fan was very popular in Saltan City. With the second-generation magic fan production line that Su-yi sold to him, after the Farsak Chamber of Commerce released the second-generation magic fan in Saltan City, they easily squeezed out the first-generation magic fan that was sold in Saltan City, seizing a large portion of the market. In just half a month, they had earned a net profit of over 5,000 gold coins. Su-yi and Chairman Farsak exchanged a few polite words before Chairman Farsak's face that was filled with smiles suddenly turned dark. He said with a soft sigh, "Chairman Su, actually I suddenly came to visit because I have something to ask of you. What are you here for?" This thought appeared in Su-yi's mind before he said, "Chairman Farsak, you're too polite. With our good relationship, how could there be a need for the word request? Just tell me if you have something, and as long as I can help, I definitely won't reject it." Chairman Su really is straightforward. "Come, I'll let you see something first." Chairman Farsak led Su-yi to a corner of the workshop and looked through a large package in the corner before taking out a magic fan. "Please take a look." Su-yi was confused as he took it and looked it over before shaking his head. "Isn't this just a second-generation magic fan?" "Chairman Farsak, what do you want me to see?" Chairman Farsak pointed at the symbol at the base of the magic fan. "Pay attention to this." Su-yi looked at it and found that there was a symbol on the magic fan. Only this symbol was a lion with a golden glow, so it was clear that it wasn't the Frestek brand. "Chairman Farsak, if I didn't remember wrong, your Farsak Chamber of Commerce's symbol should be an eagle, right?" Chairman Farsak gave a slight nod. "That's right, so the symbol on the magic fan we made last time was also an eagle." Su-yi instantly understood. He raised the second-generation magic fan in his hand and asked, "This means that this magic fan was not made by your company and was made by someone else?" He then knit his brows. "That is strange. In Saltan City, other than your Farsak Chamber of Commerce, are there any other companies that can make second-generation magic fans?" "Yes. This lion's symbol represents our Saltan City's #1 company, the Leo Chamber of Commerce." Chairman Farsak replied in a deep voice. Su-yi fell into thought. There didn't seem to be any problems with this magic fan. It was just a normal second-generation variable speed magic fan. Other than the symbol on the base being different, it was the same as the magic fans made by the New Flyer and the Farsak Chamber of Commerce. However, this was where the problem lay. The Farsak Chamber of Commerce's magic fan was the same as the Shinfei brand magic fan. That was because the Farsak Chamber of Commerce's magic fan production line was bought from New Flyer and it was built with the help of New Flyer. They could be considered from the same source, so there wasn't a problem at all. But Su-yi was very clear that he had never contacted this Leo Chamber of Commerce before, so naturally he didn't sell another production line to the Leo Chamber of Commerce. Since it was like this, how could the Leo Chamber of Commerce make this magic fan that was almost the same? Chapter 55. I've investigated it. The Leo Chamber of Commerce's magic fan factory also has 5 production magic machines. Seeing that Su-yi was still deep in thought, Chairman Farsak suddenly added in a meaningful voice. Su-yi looked at him and calmly said, "Chairman Farsak, please speak if you have something to say." Chairman Farsak's round face no longer had that incomparably friendly smile from before. His small eyes looked at Sue E and shot out two bright glows. Chairman Sue, although the contract I signed with your company didn't clearly state this, shouldn't you inform me before your company sells production magic machines to other companies in Saltan City? Sue E slightly knit his brows. He thought that our new flyer was selling production magic machines. Could it be that we need your approval to sell to anyone? Of course, Sue E was very clear that this was a very normal business practice on Earth, but in signs, it couldn't be so simple. After considering it, Sue E gestured to Chairman Farsack with his hand, telling him to calm down. Then he reached out to touch the base of the magic fan. After a while, Sue E revealed a knowing smile that he had already expected. Chairman Farsack, first I have to seriously remind you that the production magic machines are magic machines that our new flyer independently developed. As long as someone can afford it, we have a reason to sell it to anyone. Seeing that Chairman Farsack's face immediately sunk, Sue E continued with a smile. Of course, since we are in a cooperative relationship, as a cooperative partner, of course I have to consider the benefits of your Farsack Chamber of Commerce. So in a normal situation, we won't sell the production magic machines needed to make magic fans to other companies in Saltan City. Then what is with this magic fan? Chairman Farsack knit his brows as he pointed to the magic fan in Sue Yi's hand. Sue Yi shook his head. If one purely relied on hand forging, each magic fan would take a long time to make and the cost would be very high. But the price of the Leo Chamber of Commerce's magic fan is actually 10 silver coins lower than our Farsack Chamber of Commerce's magic fan. If it wasn't for the large amount of production magic machines, I'm certain that the Leo Chamber of Commerce would have suffered a loss. Of course, I don't believe those guys from the Leo Chamber of Commerce would be so stupid. President Farsack, I think you've overlooked something, Sue E said with a smile. Since the magic fan can be copied, the production magic machine can also be copied. Imitation magic machines? Chairman Farsack's little eyes suddenly popped out. This is impossible. Those 5 magic machines are so complicated. How could they be casually copied? Sue E shrugged. Although I don't want to admit it, if I'm not wrong, this is the truth. The 5 production magic machines of the Leo Chamber of Commerce you mentioned should have been copied by them. But are production magic machines that easy to copy? Chairman Farsack looked at Sue E as if he didn't believe him. Of course it's not easy, but it isn't completely impossible. Sue E casually took a tool and quickly took the magic fan in his hand apart. It was as he expected. Not only was this magic fan the same as the Shinfei brand magic fan on the outside, even the internal structure and each part was the same. In other words, this magic fan was completely a copy of the Shinfei brand magic fan. Can you see any problems? Seeing Sue Yi's actions, Chairman Farsack couldn't help asking. Sue Yi casually picked up a central shaft supporting the fan blade and looked it over before laughing. I can see many problems. Chairman Farsack, that Leo Chamber of Commerce shouldn't have been selling this magic fan for more than half a month, right? Chairman Farsack was stunned. After thinking about it, he said with a nod, That's right, it indeed hasn't been more than half a month. How do you know? Sue Yi pointed at the parts on the ground. It was them that told me. Them? Chairman Farsack's eyes fell onto the parts on the ground, and he was confused. Sue Yi looked over at Chairman Farsack. You should have brought the magic fan produced by your company this time, right? There is. Chairman Farsack went to the giant bag again to take out a magic fan. Sue Yi weighed it in his hand before suddenly knitting his brows. Chairman Farsack, when your company produced this magic fan, did you strictly follow the standards I gave you back then? Chairman Farsack was stunned before saying in an aggrieved voice, Of course. Chairman Sue, this thing was developed by your new flyer. How could I not follow the standards you set? I don't think so, right? Sue Yi gave a soft snort. He looked around and took out a Shinfei brand magic fan that was rotating in the corner of the workshop. Then he put it together with a magic fan that Chairman Farsack took out and filled the 2 magic fans with magic crystals of the same size and quality before pressing the switch at the same time. 2 faint blue lights flashed, and the blades of the 2 magic fans began to rotate, letting out a faint buzzing sound. Su-Yi pulled Chairman Farsak to the front of the two magic fans to let them cool off for a bit before suddenly turning his head to ask, "Can you see it?" The expression on Chairman Farsak's round face had turned ugly at this moment. Although these two magic fans looked the same on the outside, there was a clear difference between them when they were operating. First was the activation speed. After the switch of the Xinfei brand magic fan was pressed, it only took the blink of an eye for the blades to begin rotating. There's already a cool breeze blowing out in the time it took to breathe. As for the magic fan produced by the Farsak Chamber of Commerce, it took close to 5 seconds before the blades began to rotate. It took a while before one could feel the cool breeze. Next was the stability. The blades of the Xinfei brand magic fan were very stable, and one couldn't see any fluctuations with the naked eye. As for the Farsak Chamber of Commerce's magic fan, it would slow down from time to time, like there was something stopping the blade from rotating. Other than these 2 points, during the entire process of the Frestek brand magic fan, there was only a faint buzzing sound from the fan blades. As for the Farsak Chamber of Commerce's magic fan, not only was the sound from the fan blades much louder, there were also cracking sounds that came from inside the magic fan from time to time. Even after the fan blades turned for a while, there were more and more places where the sound came from. As the magic fan kept shaking, it made people wonder if it would fall apart at any moment. Chairman Farsak, if you were a customer and these two magic fans were placed in front of you, which one would you choose? Sui asked. Chairman Farsak's face sunk as the fat on his face jumped a few times. He squeezed out a bitter smile as he replied, "Of course I'd choose your Xinfei brand magic fan." Without waiting for Su-Yi to reply, he asked, "But Chairman Su, why is that? I attached great importance to this magic fan and strictly followed the process and standards you gave me. Even the 5 production magic machines were bought from you. But why is there such a large difference in the end?" It's very simple. The difference is in 2 points. One is the raw materials, and the second is the manpower. Su-Yi stretched out 2 fingers and shook them before suddenly asking, "Chairman Farsak, the workers I sent to you, you didn't attach importance to them at all, right? How could that be? Those 5 people were sent by you to teach the production process. How could I not attach importance to them?" Chairman Farsak immediately said in a loud voice, "Since they left, I've been feeding them good food every day. I didn't treat them as slaves at all." Su-Yi shook his head. "Can you guarantee that your subordinates don't treat them as slaves?" This, Chairman Farsak was stunned as he said in an uncertain voice, "I seriously announced this to them. It shouldn't be." Coup. Chairman Su, you should talk about the problem of the raw materials. I don't understand. Isn't the raw material used to make the magic fan iron? How could there be a difference? Sui gave a sigh. He wanted to explain to this fellow that there were several different kinds of iron on Earth. He didn't know if he would be so shocked that some of the fat on his face would fall off. Of course, in this incomparably weak science, even if Su-Yi said these things, no one would understand. Helpless, he could only slowly use words that Chairman Farsak could understand to explain to him. They are both iron, but there are differences. Chapter 56. Chairman Farsak finally left Bana City in a satisfied manner. The reason why he could leave without worry was naturally not only because Su-Yi had solved the problem of the magic fan for him, but also because he had promised to send several skilled workers to help him improve the quality of the Farsak Chamber of Commerce's magic fans. For a qualified merchant like President Farsak, the only thing that could satisfy him was, of course, sufficient benefits. To achieve these benefits, Su-Yi represented New Flyer in signing another contract with the Farsak Chamber of Commerce. This contract was even more detailed than the previous one. According to this contract, the Frestek Chamber of Commerce would provide more complete technical support to the Farsak Chamber of Commerce. At the same time, once the Frestek Chamber of Commerce had a new magic machine, the Farsak Chamber of Commerce would have the priority to cooperate with them. For example, when Chairman Farsak came to Bana City this time, he had heard that a small magic harvester had appeared in Bana City recently. Other than the matter of the magic fan, the main reason he came this time was to obtain information related to the small magic harvester from Sui. Su Yi had very straightforwardly revealed all the information related to the small magic harvester to him. But he rejected the Farsak Chamber of Commerce's request to create a production line for the small magic harvester. Even if Chairman Farsak was dissatisfied with this, Su Yi couldn't help him even if he wanted to. The small magic harvester was different from the magic fan. It required several times more craftsmanship. Even in New Flyer, only the dwarves could make it. Su Yi hadn't made a set of magic machines to replace people to make the small magic harvester. So it was impossible for him to give these dwarves to others. So it was impossible for him to help the Farsak Chamber of Commerce create a production line. Chairman Farsak's request couldn't be satisfied, so he could only take a step back. He proposed to Su Yi that he would be the sole agent for the Xin Fei small magic harvester in Sultan City. Towards this request, Su Yi immediately agreed. With New Flyer's current scale and reputation, it was unrealistic for them to directly infiltrate Sultan City. On the contrary, it would be much more convenient for them to infiltrate through President Farsak, a chamber of commerce with sufficient power and status in Sultan City. If they let the Farsak Chamber of Commerce act as the agent for the small magic harvester, even if they would lose a portion of their profits, it would allow the Xin Fei brand and the New Flyer to gain fame in Sultan City. Overall, it was very worth it. Other than that, Su Yi had firmly rejected Chairman Farsak's offer of an exclusive right to buy the production magic machines. Although this refusal made President Farsak very unhappy, Su Yi did not intend to give in at all. What he was considering was not just Sultan City, but from a long-term perspective. If they agreed to President Farsak's request, then all of New Flyer's products might be restricted in the future, with the precedent set by the Farsak Chamber of Commerce. If New Flyer wanted to sell its products to all of Signs in the future, it would be difficult for other chambers of commerce to reject similar requests. Like this, there was no doubt that New Flyer's development would be greatly restricted, and they might even be controlled by others. This was something that Su Yi could not accept no matter what. Chairman Farsak wanted to fight back at first, and even had a trace of threat in his words. But Su Yi's tone was very strong, and he did not give in at all, so Chairman Farsak could do nothing in the end. After all, the only company that could produce the production magic machines was New Flyer, and Chairman Farsak saw large benefits from this. If the negotiations with Su Yi really broke down and they lost the chance to cooperate with New Flyer, then it would be the Farsak Chamber of Commerce that would suffer heavy losses. So after 2 days of wrangling and negotiating, they finally reached an agreement. Even if Chairman Farsak had many requests that he didn't agree to, through this negotiation, he could tell that the Farsak Chamber of Commerce could obtain large profits from this, so he was naturally satisfied when he left. Compared to the satisfied Chairman Farsak, Su Yi's heart wasn't as relaxed and happy. After sending Chairman Farsak off, Su Yi returned to his office. He looked at the magic fan that kept turning on his desk and fell into deep thought. The magic fan that was currently turning wasn't the Xin Fei brand or the Farsak brand. It was the magic fan that Farsak had specially brought over from the Leo Chamber of Commerce. It had to be said, the quality of this magic fan wasn't high. Not only could it not compare to the Xin Fei brand magic fan, it was even a bit worse than the Farsak Chamber of Commerce's magic fan. When he was negotiating with Chairman Farsak over the past 2 days, Su Yi had kept it on his desk the entire time. Now that it had only been 2 days, this magic fan was already showing signs of loosening. When the fan blades were quickly turning, the entire magic fan kept shaking. It also made waves of cracking sounds, like it would fall apart at any moment. The reason why Su Yi was able to convince Chairman Farsak was because the performance of this magic fan had played an important role. Seeing the Leo Chamber of Commerce's magic fan being this bad, the worry in Chairman Farsak's heart disappeared like smoke. It was different from Chairman Farsak, who was filled with schadenfreude. When Su Yi saw this magic fan, his heart was filled with pleasant surprise instead of worry. Although the quality of this magic fan was very bad, even calling a counterfeit was a bit of an exaggeration, this magic fan represented fact. It was that other than Su Yi and the New Flyer, there were other people and companies on the signs that were looking at magic machines. He had always been worried that the industrial base of the signs was too weak. Because of the high status of magicians, most people didn't care about the magic machine industry. As a mechanical engineer, it was very hard for to accept a world with a weak industrial base. So he hoped that he could create a complete industrial system on the Signs continent. But creating an industrial system was an incomparably large project. If it was just him alone, it was impossible for him to complete it. Only when more people joined in and worked together could he have a chance of completing this dream. Now that the Leo Chamber of Commerce had appeared, it meant that the people of the Signs were finally beginning to recognize the importance of the magic machine industry. Although the Leo Chamber of Commerce's goal in producing this magic fan was to earn money as long as they participated, it meant that they had this awareness and there was hope. Of course, this wasn't something that was too surprising. New Flyer had earned a large profit of over 10,000 gold coins in just 2 short months with the magic fan. This kind of profit would naturally attract the attention of others, so it wasn't strange at all for them to follow the trend and enter the field of magic machine research. He wasn't worried that the Leo Chamber of Commerce would pose a threat to him, because he could see from this magic fan that the Leo Chamber of Commerce's magic machine research was only at the most basic stage. Even if they could make a counterfeit production magic machine that surprised a bit, based on the rough craftsmanship of this magic fan, he could tell that there was a large difference between the counterfeit production magic machines. They couldn't compare to the production magic machines made by New Flyer at all. He suddenly gave a sigh and reached out to touch the base of the magic fan. Based on the style of the magic array, it's very likely that it came from Wella. I heard from Latte a few days ago that she, Rim, and Cimarron went to a company in Saltan City. So, it should be the Leo Chamber of Commerce. He turned to look to the northeast. Saltan City was in that direction. If it's to research magic machines, it's clear that our New Flyer is better. The reason why Wella chose the Leo Merchant Guild was probably because Rim wasn't willing to submit to me. As for Cimarron, he gave a cold laugh. He looked at the magic fan on the desk with a trace of ridicule in his eyes. Choosing this kind of company that's eager for quick success, you deserve to be unlucky. The magic fan on the desk suddenly trembled and the protective net around the fan fell off with the trembling of the magic fan. It slammed onto the desk and made a crisp sound. Chapter 57. It was already the end of September, and the heat was gradually fading. There was even a bit of a cool breeze in the air. On the trees on the side of the road, there was a bit of yellow on the originally green leaves. When the wind blew, there would be 1 or 2 leaves that would fall down. However, even in such a cool autumn weather, Freeman was still sweating profusely, completely soaking the short sleeves he wore, sticking to his body, making him feel extremely uncomfortable. This was something that couldn't be helped. Anyone who dragged 200 pounds of wheat from Ireland to Banna City and traveled close to 30 kilometers would be covered in sweat. Actually, he didn't need to work this hard because since the fall harvest day, the McGrady Chamber of Commerce that specialized in grain had sent people to the village to buy. Most of the wheat harvested by the villagers were sold to them. Freeman had done the same in the past few years, but this year he chose to transport the harvested wheat to Banna City to sell. The reason was very simple. He had suddenly heard that if he sold it to the buyer in Ireland Village, the price for each pound was 34 copper coins lower than selling it in Banna City. If he were to include the 200 kilograms of wheat, he would have to pay a total of 70 to 80 silver coins. Perhaps to the nobles of Banna City, 70 to 80 silver coins was something that they would be disinclined to even look at if it fell to the ground. Even the villagers of Ireland Village didn't care that much, so they all chose to sell the wheat to the McGrady Chamber of Commerce in the village. However, to a poor family like Freeman who had 3 children crying piteously for food, 70 to 80 silver coins was a sum that couldn't be ignored. The other villagers felt that it was too hard, but Freeman insisted on bringing the wheat to Banna City, just to sell it for 70 to 80 silver coins. A gust of cold wind suddenly blew over, making Furman feel much cooler. He put down the cart for now and took a towel to wipe his sweat, preparing to rest. The walls of Banna City were already in sight, and there was still some time before noon, so he didn't need a rush. After raising his head to wipe the sweat off his face, Furman's eyes unconsciously fell onto Banta City in the distance, and he suddenly gave a sound. Outside the four walls of Banta City, there was always a large sign. Not only were the citizens of Banta City familiar with it, even a normal farmer like Furman clearly knew about it. Every time he came to Banta City for something, Furman couldn't help looking at the sign a few more times. It was for no other reason than to look at the beautiful and noble girl up there. But this time, when Furman habitually looked at the sign again, he found that the picture on the sign had changed. On the sign from before, other than the beautiful girl, there was also the Shinfei brand magic fan design. When he first saw the picture on the sign, Furman was deeply attracted to it. Other than remembering the beautiful girl, he also remembered the Shinfei brand magic fan. He secretly made a decision in his heart that as long as his family was a bit richer, he would definitely buy a Shinfei brand magic fan and bring it back. He would also let his 3 children enjoy a cool breeze on a hot summer day. However, on the large picture on the sign, the beautiful girl that Freeman was familiar with was still there, but other than her, there were 2 other young girls. Although these 2 girls weren't as beautiful as the girl, they could still be considered beautiful. Moreover, one was lively and the other was quiet and beautiful, giving people different feelings. The 3 girls in the picture were gathered around a table, and based on the dishes on the table, they should be preparing to eat. However, in the middle of the table, there was a strange, cylindrical iron utensil. The girl with a lively expression and a round face was holding a ladle and scooping out a spoonful of fragrant rice from the strange iron utensil. What is this thing? Freeman was confused as he looked at the picture. After thinking about it, he guessed something. The picture from before was New Flyer's advertisement for the Shinfei brand magic fan. So this picture should also be an advertisement, right? But what is this strange thing? Why is there still cooked rice inside? There were 2 lines of words on the sign other than the picture, but it was a pity that Freeman couldn't read them. In the end, driven by his curiosity, he pulled a middle-aged man who seemed to be a bit knowledgeable and asked him this. What is written on it? The middle-aged man looked in the direction Freeman was pointing at and revealed a smile. Oh, that. Let me tell you, that is a new sign that New Flyer put on 2 days ago. It's for their company's new product, the Magic Rice Cooker. Magic Rice Cooker? It's that round thing on the sign? What is it used for? Freeman was even more curious. You can't even understand this? Look, isn't there rice inside? So this Magic Rice Cooker can be used to cook rice. The middle-aged man pointed at the sign and read it word for word. There are 2 lines on it. The first line is Shinfei brand magic rice cooker, allowing you to enjoy the purest rice. The second line is live a healthy life, avoiding smoke from firewood. Do you understand what this means? Freeman honestly shook his head. I don't understand. The middle-aged man couldn't help rolling his eyes. What is there to not understand? With this magic rice cooker, you don't need to use firewood to light the fire and can directly cook the rice. Not only is it faster than using firewood, it doesn't even smoke. How about it? Isn't it convenient? Don't use firewood? Then how can it be cooked? Freeman said in a stunned voice. The middle-aged man laughed. It seems like you still don't understand. But forget it. I don't have anything to show you, and you wouldn't understand even if I told you. If you're really curious, you could buy one and try it out. Let me tell you, I bought one as soon as possible, and now it's much easier for my wife to cook for me. Seeing the middle-aged man leave while laughing, Freeman helplessly shook his head. Although this magic rice cooker was a good thing, he couldn't afford it. So, it was useless no matter how good it was. After talking for a bit on the side of the road, Freeman felt that he had recovered some strength. He washed his cart and continued dragging the cart full of wheat into Banta City. Half an hour later, Freeman arrived at the McGrady Chamber of Commerce. He easily followed the flow of people to find a place to buy wheat and sold it. In the end, he received 2 gold coins, 37 silver coins, and 76 copper coins. With this hard-earned income, Freeman looked at the restaurant beside the McGrady Chamber of Commerce and swallowed a mouthful of saliva with difficulty. He took out the sesame seed cake that his wife had prepared in the morning from the cloth bag that he had been carrying for half a day and prepared to drink the free cold water provided by the McGrady Chamber of Commerce for lunch. After drinking a mouthful of water and preparing to eat the sesame seed cake, he suddenly heard the conversation of two people on the side of the road. "Hey, did you participate in New Flyer's Big Stomaching competition?" "I did, but it's a pity that I couldn't hold on after eating 3 bowls." "AI, only 3 bowls? Aren't you too lacking?" "I ate an entire 5 bowls." "Jay, so what if it's 5 bowls? The last time I went, that fellow who won ate an entire 9 bowls. He ate all the rice in the 3 magic rice cookers by himself." "That powerful? That fellow wouldn't be a pig, right?" "How would I know?" Freeman's ears twitched. "Big Stomach King competition? What was that?" The curious Freeman pulled over a worker of the company to ask around and found out that this Big Stomach King competition was a competition that New Flyer had been holding since this morning to see who could eat the most. This competition didn't limit people from participating, so no matter who it was, they could participate as long as they wanted to. During the competition, all participants could eat the rice provided by New Flyer, and the one who ate the most would be the winner. The competition would last for an entire day, and there would be a winner. This winner would not only receive a magic rice cooker as a reward, they would also receive a special membership card from New Flyer. No matter what product they bought from New Flyer in the future, they would receive a certain discount. Freeman didn't care that much about this final reward. What he cared about was the fact that he could eat the rice for free. Looking down at the dried sesame seed cake in his hand, Freeman thought about it before decisively putting the sesame seed cake back into his chest. Then he asked the worker where New Flyer was holding the competition before quickly heading off. Chapter 58. When Freeman rushed to the shopping street, he found that this wide street was currently filled with people. There were even cheering sounds that came from time to time. Even though Freeman had a strong body, he still had to expend quite a bit of effort to squeeze in. There was an open space surrounded by the crowd, and there were several tables in a row. There were 10 people with different appearances sitting at the tables, and each person had the magic rice cooker that Freeman had seen on the sign outside the city. The magic rice cooker was filled with white rice, and its fragrance filled the air. Those 10 people were holding large bowls that were as big as their faces, which were filled with rice as they desperately stuffed it into their mouths. The competition had just begun, and these 10 people were eating very quickly. Not long after, the 10 bowls were empty. However, when the second bowl began, it was clear who the winner was. 3 of them couldn't eat anymore after eating half of their bowls and announced their defeat. Not long after, the other 2 couldn't hold on anymore. Of the remaining 5 people, only 2 of them looked relaxed after finishing their second bowl. The other 3 were clearly a bit strained. As expected, those 3 people raised their hands in surrender after eating less than half of their third bowl. The remaining 2 people even finished their third bowl in one breath. The remaining 2 people were fighting one-on-one. The crowd became even more excited as they kept cheering for the 2 of them, making the atmosphere very lively. After finishing their 4th bowl, the movements of the 2 people slowed down. Halfway through their 5th bowl, there was finally one person who couldn't hold on and spat out the rice in his mouth. The other person slowly finished his bowl with difficulty. The competition naturally ended, and a young man came out to announce that person's victory. He also placed the magic rice cooker in front of him in his hands. Freeman asked the person beside him in a daze, "Wasn't it said that only the final winner would get the magic rice cooker? Could it be that this is the final competition?" The person beside him looked at Freeman and said in a voice of disdain, "How could the New Flyer be this stingy? Let me tell you, no matter who wins, they will all get a magic rice cooker. Not only will the final winner get a magic rice cooker, it's said that they will also get a special gift." "What? You want to participate?" Freeman nodded. Coincidentally, at this moment, the young man who should be the host was announcing the start of the next match. Freeman hurriedly squeezed his way out, snatching a seat at the table. Seeing the hesitation on the faces of the crowd, Freeman couldn't help but feel disdain in his heart. These guys, they obviously had free and delicious rice to eat, but they didn't want it. It was too wasteful. After a while, the 10 people were gathered and another 10 magic rice cookers were placed on the table. Under the guidance of a young man, the 10 contestants, including Freeman, turned the lid on the magic rice cooker and opened it. Instantly, a strong rice fragrance filled the air, making the surrounding crowd cry out in surprise. Freeman's nose twitched as a rich fragrance assailed his nostrils, causing him to involuntarily drool. His stomach even let out rumbling noises as it failed to live up to his expectations. This magic rice cooker really was a good thing. He had clearly seen other people pour in rice and water, but it only took a bit of time to cook such fragrant rice. It was even more fragrant than the rice cooked in a large pot at home. Begin the match. With the young man's order, Freeman immediately used a spoon to fill the large bowl in front of him with rice. After blowing on it twice, he began swallowing in large mouthfuls. Since this morning, Freeman had only drunk some water on the way and hadn't eaten anything during this time. Dragging 200 kilograms of wheat for such a long distance naturally consumed an astonishing amount of physical strength. Freeman's stomach was already empty, not to mention a bowl of white rice. He might even be able to swallow a bowl of wild grass. The crowd only saw a blur in front of their eyes as the large bowl in front of Freeman was already empty. When Freeman was prepared to fill a second bowl, he was stopped by the young man in charge. "What? I can't eat anymore?" Freeman looked at the young man in a daze as his face filled with disappointment. Alex couldn't help breaking out in a few drops of cold sweat. Since this morning, there had been 13 groups of over 100 people participating in this big Stomach King competition. This was his first time seeing a fellow who could eat this quickly. Such a large bowl of rice. Even if he starved for an entire day, he wouldn't be able to finish it. But this dark-faced fellow in front of him had actually swallowed it in the blink of an eye. He really didn't know what his mouth and stomach were made of. "No, it's not that you can't eat, but I ask you to wait for the other contestants so it's easier for us to count." Alex maintained a faint smile as he explained to Freeman. "Oh." Freeman could only put down the large bowl and look at the other contestants beside him. "I say, why aren't you eating faster? Don't you want to win?" The other 9 contestants looked at each other in blank dismay. They thought that they wanted to win, but looking at his appearance, how could they have any hope of winning? After a while, 2 contestants left their seats and gave up on the competition. The other 7 contestants were a bit unconvinced, so they all ate the first bowl of rice. However, after seeing Freeman swallow the second bowl of rice like a tornado, the other 7 contestants didn't even have the appetite to eat anymore. As for the desire to win, there was no way they could talk about it. Thus, Freeman only had to eat 2 bowls, and he was already the victor of this competition. Seeing the other contestants leave, Freeman was a bit surprised. "Hey, why are you all leaving? This rice is so delicious. Aren't you all planning on eating a bit more?" The surrounding people were speechless. They had seen quite a few people participating in the Big Stomach King competition, but this was their first time seeing this kind of fellow. Alex didn't know whether to laugh or cry as he placed the magic rice cooker in front of Freeman in his hand. He tried his best to put on a straight face as he said, "This mister, congratulations on winning this round. This magic rice cooker is your reward for winning, so please take care of it. Other than that, I ask you to leave your name and come to the finals at 6 in the evening." Freeman looked at the magic rice cooker in his hand. He thought that he had only eaten 2 bowls of rice, and he had already received a magic rice cooker. Was there such a good thing in this world? Facts proved that Freeman's good fortune wasn't limited to this. After finding a temporary job in the city for an afternoon and receiving 3 silver coins as a reward, Freeman arrived at the competition venue at 6 in the evening. In the finals, he shocked everyone by eating 13 bowls of rice to win. With this victory, Freeman was led by Alex to meet the legendary chairman of a new flyer, Sui. Sui's eyes looked over Freeman before finally falling onto his stomach, and his expression became a bit strange. He had clearly heard Alex say that this fellow had eaten 13 bowls of rice in the finals, but now his stomach was only slightly bulging. He couldn't see where those 13 bowls of rice were at all. Perhaps this is called innate talent, Sui muttered in his heart. Then his expression became serious as he said with a cough, "Hello, I am Sui. You're called Freeman, right? I've heard that you came from Ireland Village." Although Freeman was a bit surprised that Sue E was this young, thinking of the other side's identity as the chairman of the New Flyer, he couldn't help feeling a bit nervous. Hearing this question, he was stunned before he awkwardly replied, Right. I came from Ireland Village. My appetite is very big." Suey laughed. "You don't need to say this. I already know." Freeman was instantly embarrassed as a rare blush appeared on his dark face. "All right, let's not talk about this. Since you've won this competition, our New Flyer will give you a special reward according to the rules of the competition. But before this, can I ask you a question?" Sue E then said, Sir Chairman, please ask, please ask." He, no need to be nervous. It's best if you remain calm and think about this question before answering me." Sue E paused for a moment. Seeing Freeman's nervous expression, he knew that it was impossible for him to not be nervous. He nodded and continued, "Listen well, this question is actually a multiple-choice question. Freeman, right now you have 2 rewards to choose from. One of them is 50 gold coins. Chapter 59. 50 gold coins. That much." Freeman suddenly stood up, so excited that his hands and feet began to tremble. Although he had guessed that there would be some good reward for winning, he never would have thought that he would receive a reward of 50 gold coins at once. For a poor family like his, if he had 50 gold coins, it meant that he could immediately break away from his poor life. Not only would he be able to renovate the house that was leaking in several places, but he would also be able to completely change the furniture in the house. In addition, he would be able to buy 2 new dresses for his wife and a few toys for his children that they had long dreamed of getting. Sue E saw the expression on Freeman's face keep changing, but he didn't say anything to break his daydreams. From Alex's description and Freeman's clothes, he could guess that this man's family was in a very difficult situation. 50 gold coins wasn't considered much for the current Sue E, but it was a very large blow to Freeman. Thinking of when Sue E had just transmigrated to Signs, because he wasn't familiar with the place, he had almost starved to death. If someone had suddenly given him 50 gold coins at that time, his excitement wouldn't have been any less than Freeman's. After a while, Freeman finally calmed down a bit. He looked at Sue E and swallowed a mouthful of saliva with great difficulty before slowly asking, Sir Chairman, is what you said true? You wouldn't be lying to me, right? Can I really receive 50 gold coins as a reward?" Sue E nodded with strange certainty. "Of course it's true. I think that since you are from Banta, you should know about our New Flyer. Do you think that I would ruin the reputation of our company for 50 gold coins?" No, of course not, of course not." Freeman hurriedly waved his hands. Freeman quickly waved his hands. "Sir Chairman, don't misunderstand. I just didn't dare believe it for a while. I definitely wasn't doubting you." Sue E revealed a faint smile. "I understand. So, Freeman, have you decided to choose this reward?" "I've decided." Freeman had only said half of this before suddenly stopping. Wait a minute. Sir President, you said that there are 2 rewards for me to choose from. May I ask what the other reward is?" Seeing the glow in Freeman's eyes, Sue E couldn't help revealing a smile. He thought that although this Freeman seemed honest, he wasn't stupid. "Of course. But I don't think the second reward will make you so excited, because this reward isn't money in the real world, but chance. Opportunity." Freeman scratched his head, looking at Sue E in confusion. "Sir President, what does this mean?" "Freeman, I've heard that you came to Banta City from Ireland Village to sell wheat. So you should have noticed the wheat fields near Banta City, right?" Sue didn't reply, but asked back, "Wheat fields?" Freeman tilted his head and thought for a moment before nodding. "Yes, I saw a lot of them by the roadside. Speaking of this, Sir Chairman, the wheat fields near Banta City seem to have been harvested quite early. I can see that the wheat stalks in the fields have been burned for a long time." Sue nodded with a faint smile. "It's good that you can notice this. But if I told you that the wheat fields outside Banta City had been harvested over 10 days ago, what would you think?" "How is that possible?" Freeman was stunned for a moment, then vigorously shook his head. Freeman shook his head. The wheat had just ripened over 10 days ago. How could it have been harvested in just a day or two? Sir Chairman, an important person like you doesn't understand the matters of the fields, so you don't know. Harvesting wheat is very troublesome. It took over a week for my family's fields to be harvested. Sooty stretched out his right index finger and shook it. No, I understand it very well. Moreover, our new flyer participated in the harvesting of the wheat fields outside the city. Freeman looked at Soo-ee with a strange look. Sir Chairman, I remember that your new flyer sells magic fans. Could it be that you also harvest wheat? Because we don't just sell magic fans, we also sell small magic harvesters. Soo-ee took a picture from Alex's hand with a smile and opened it in front of Freeman. Look, it's this. Freeman stuck his head out to look. The painting depicted a scene of harvesting wheat in a field. However, it was different from Freeman's familiar painting of several people harvesting wheat stalks. In this painting, there was only a brawny man pushing a strange object through the field. The front of this strange thing had a large mouth that swallowed the wheat, and there was a small mouth in the back that kept spitting out grains. Freeman looked at it for a while before asking with a frown, Sir Chairman, is this thing real? How could harvesting wheat be this simple? It's this simple. Soo-ee directly gave the picture to Freeman before seriously saying, Now, Freeman, let's return to the topic from before. The second reward you can choose is an opportunity, and this opportunity is related to this small magic harvester, as well as the small magic plowing machine that we are about to release. Why? Viscount Leslie slightly knit his brows as he looked at Soo-ee, who was looking down at some documents. You should know that even if the fall harvest is over, as long as your small magic harvester is produced, there will be many nobles in Banta City that will fight over it. As for the small magic plowing machine, there are a bunch of people who have already placed orders with you. These two magic machines that are in demand right now, they could be sold for 120 gold coins together. You're actually giving them to a farmer that isn't related to you at all? Soo-ee, just what are you thinking? Soo-ee looked up and revealed a relaxed smile to Viscount Leslie. He shook his head. It's not giving, it's borrowing. You can't make a mistake about this. Viscount Leslie gave a soft snort. Borrowing? Lending it to someone for not a single cent. Is there any difference from giving it? Of course there's a difference. Soo-ee looked at Viscount Leslie's expression and felt that this Lord Viscount seemed to attach great importance to this matter. After thinking about it, he decided to properly explain it to him. Lord Viscount, this is actually a part of the farmer support plan that I've made. As for this farmer support plan, I've discussed it with Seabass before, so I think that he should have already reported it to you. He has indeed mentioned it to me, but this plan was only an idea when you told him about it. There wasn't any concrete plan at all. Why did you suddenly decide to do this now? Giving. All right, lending the small magic harvester and the small magic plowing machine to that farmer. How does this help with this plan? It's a big help. Soo-ee was very clear that Viscount Leslie was a very opinionated and insightful person. If he wanted to convince him, he couldn't use an ambiguous tone. Lord Viscount, before I explain, I want to ask you a few questions. Hearing Soo-ee's words, Viscount Leslie immediately knew that Soo-ee had considered this matter deeply. He relaxed his body and leaned back in his chair, calmly giving an inviting gesture to Soo-ee. Ask. All right. First question, Lord Viscount, what do you think the small magic harvester and the small magic plowing machine are used for? Is there need to ask this? Of course, it's used on the farmland. Then the second question, let's limit the scope to Banta City. What proportion of all the farmland in Banta City do the nobles that you represent have? This. I remember that last year, it should be around 30%. Viscount Leslie thought about it before replying. Very good. Since you nobles have 30%, what about the remaining 70%? Who has it? Soo-ee asked. Nonsense. It's not in the hands of us nobles, so of course it belongs to the royal family. The farmland in the hands of us nobles was given to us by the royal family. This might not be accurate. Soo-ee shook his head. Viscount Leslie shook his head. Although in theory, all the land in the kingdom belongs to the royal family, The royal family doesn't have enough manpower and energy to cultivate all the farmland themselves. So in reality, the farmland has already been given to the normal farmers of the kingdom. In theory, they are renting farmland from the royal family, but in reality, the farmland can be considered being controlled by the farmers. Viscount Leslie was silent for a bit before slowly nodding. You're right if you say it like this. But how is this related to what you're saying? It's very related. So he maintained a certain tone. Lord Viscount, right now our new flyers' small magic harvesters have all been sold to the nobles represented by you, but there isn't a single one that has fallen into the hands of the farmers. This means that only the 30% of farmland controlled by you nobles can enjoy the benefits of the small magic harvester. The farmers can only rely on manual labor to complete the heavy harvest like before. Viscount Leslie knit his brows. What? Those farmers can't afford the small magic harvester. Could it be that you're planning to blame us nobles? It doesn't matter if you blame me or not. So he waved his hand. Viscount Leslie waved his hand. I'm just stating a fact. The fact in front of us is that just with Banta City as an example, only the 30% of farmland owned by the nobles can be quickly harvested and the other 70% of farmland can't be harvested at all. What I want to do is to help the farmers enjoy the benefits of a quick harvest. So you directly gave the small magic harvester and the small magic plowing machine to that normal farmer named Freeman? Viscount Leslie was still confused. But Sue, what use is there in giving one? With the area under Banta City's jurisdiction, I think that even if you gave 100 of them, wouldn't be enough, right? Then again, what benefits does this matter have for you? What benefits does it have for the new flyer? Lord Viscount, I'll remind you again, it's not giving, it's borrowing. Although you can't see the benefits now, I'm certain that our company will earn large amounts of profit from this business in the future, so please believe me. Sui said with a faint smile. Other than that, this matter has a very important meaning to me, and it has many benefits to the new flyer. Viscount Leslie shook his head in a confused manner. I can't see any benefits. Sui laughed as a strange look appeared on his face. Lord Viscount, have you heard of a phrase called liberating productivity? Chapter 60. The conversation with Viscount Leslie went very smoothly. Compared to many arrogant and stubborn nobles, Viscount Leslie had a very clear advantage. It was that even if he couldn't understand something right now, he wouldn't deny it. He would patiently listen and try his best to accept and try it out. For example, when Sui talked about liberating productivity, Viscount Leslie was completely confused and didn't understand at all. But he didn't refute Sui because of this and patiently listened to Sui. When Sui took out the 100 slaves he had borrowed from him as an example, he finally had an idea. When those 100 slaves were under Viscount Leslie's name, they could only do some simple and heavy work, so their value was very limited. In order to feed them, Viscount Leslie had to pay a small amount of gold coins each year. But after they were lent to Sui, in just 2 months, if they were given a normal wage, they would have brought Viscount Leslie a large profit of over 1,000 gold coins. Not to mention that they played a very important role in the factory, creating a large profit for the new flyer. Viscount Leslie was also a large shareholder of the new flyer, so of course he would take a part of the profits of the company. So even if Viscount Leslie wasn't willing, he had to admit that Sui wasn't wrong at all. If these slaves were in his hands, the value they created was far from being as valuable as if they were in Sui's hands. Thinking of this, Viscount Leslie was very interested in Sui's farmer support plan. Even if he didn't know Sui's specific plan, he immediately made a decision and decided to support Sui's plan. Compared to this, although Sui's net worth wasn't low because of a new flyer in Banta City, he could only be considered a small merchant. There were many things that weren't easy for him to do. Viscount Leslie was completely different. As a famous noble of Banta City, and with the influence of the family behind him, his words in Banta City were far from what Sui could compare to. With his strong support, Sui's plan was naturally much easier to implement. 3 days later, the first small magic plowing machine appeared. It It was demonstrated on Viscount Leslie's farmland, as usual. This time was different from watching Viscount Leslie harvest the wheat. The Banta City nobles who received the invitation didn't have any doubts at all and happily came because they already knew that the small magic plowing machine would be demonstrated this time. Although they only knew the name of the small magic plowing machine, that didn't stop them from being enthusiastic. In the autumn wheat harvest before, these nobles had enjoyed the benefits of the small magic harvester. The wheat that would have taken them 10 days to half a month to harvest, with the use of the small magic harvester, it only took them 2 days to harvest. The increase in efficiency was terrifying. This time when Viscount Leslie told the new flyer that they had developed a new magic machine that could quickly pluck the soil after harvesting, these nobles didn't have any doubts at all. They didn't even know what this magic machine looked like as they all placed orders with the new flyer. Now that the small magic plowing machine had finally appeared, the nobles naturally wanted to see it as soon as possible. When they arrived at the designated farmland, they were shocked to find that other than the nobles, there were also some people who were obviously commoners. Some of them were even dressed very simply, and their faces were dark as if they were farmers. Seeing this scene, some of the nobles were dissatisfied. This was clearly a gathering of nobles, so it was fine for the new flyer's chairman Sue E. to participate. What were these commoners and even those bumpkins doing here? But this time it was Viscount Leslie who invited them. Considering that Viscount Leslie might have a deeper meaning, even if these nobles were dissatisfied in their hearts, they wouldn't show it in front of everyone. Rather, the commoners were very nervous, especially the normal farmers. They had never seen this many nobles in their lives, so when they were suddenly standing with all these old nobles, they felt very awkward. It was a good thing that there was a strange-looking machine by the farmland that attracted everyone's attention, turning everyone's attention to this machine. This machine should be the small magic plowing machine, but looked even stranger than the small magic harvester. There was a row of cylinders in front of the machine, and there was a weak yellow glow coming from the bottom of each cylinder. The surrounding nobles had some understanding of magic, so they could see that there was an earth-attributed magic array on these cylinders. Thinking about how this machine was called the small magic plowing machine, it was understandable that there was an earth-attributed magic array on it. But the second half of the machine was something that people couldn't understand. The second half was tightly wrapped in an iron box, and other than seeing something through the gaps, they couldn't see anything else. It made people want to open the iron box to see what was inside. The doubts in everyone's hearts didn't last long. After a while, Viscount Leslie saw that everyone was here and announced the start. A burly man stepped forward and grabbed the handle at the back of the machine. After pressing the switch, the row of cylinders at the front of the machine flashed with a bright yellow light. Then, it suddenly fell, heavily smashing into the farmland that had become extremely hard after the wheat was harvested. As soon as the bottom of the column touched the soil, everyone heard a low muffled sound coming from the soil. Then they saw countless cracks appear on the originally hard soil, and then it violently rolled and shook. Earth-splitting spell. The eyes of a young noble on the side of the farmland lit up as he spoke out in surprise. Baron Hannes, you can recognize the magic array on it. A noble on the side asked in a surprised voice. Yes, if I'm not mistaken, each of those pillars should have an Earth Fisher magic array added to them. The young noble known as Baron Hannes nodded in response. Baron Hannes nodded. Although the Earth-splitting spell array is only a second-grade Earth-attributed magic array, to be able to think of using it like this and being able to control the range of the array, even letting the arrays on the cylinders not affect each other, perfectly displaying their effects, it can be seen that the person who designed this magic machine and this array must have a profound understanding of magic arrays. Baron Hannes, this is your first time in our Banta City, so you don't know. The one who designed this magic machine was New Flyer's chairman Sue E. He is indeed a magician, and it's said that even great magician Camilla praised his talent for magic, so it isn't strange for him to be able to design this kind of magic array. You said he's a magician? Baron Hannes was stunned. Baron Hannes was stunned. Since he is a magician, why would he open a company? Why isn't he studying magic? With his strong talent for magic, if he focused on studying magic, he would definitely become a very powerful magician. The noble on the side gave a shrug. I don't know about this. But everyone has their own ambitions. Perhaps Chairman Su likes to study these things? Baron Hannes shook his head with knitted brows and didn't say anything else. In the field, the small magic plowing machine kept moving forward. The pillar in front of him fell, and the earth-splitting magic circle on the pillar easily scattered the solid soil into pieces. The iron box at the back finally revealed its hidden fangs, which turned out to be a ferocious iron rake. Along with the high-speed rotation of the iron plow, the dense iron nails on the plow continuously rolled in the fragmented soil, and in an instant, all the fragmented soil was completely shattered. When the small magic plowing machine left the soil, the firm soil had turned into a pile of incomparably loose soil. Seeing this scene, whether it was the nobles or the peasants, they all couldn't help gasping in surprise. If they relied purely on manpower to do the same work of plowing the soil, not only would it take a large amount of time and effort, it would be impossible for the soil to become this loose, so the effect would be much worse. Moreover, the better the effect of plowing the soil, the easier it would be for the following planting work. The crops would also be able to absorb more nutrients from the soil, which would be helpful for their future growth. So with the help of this small magic plowing machine, not only could they save a large amount of time and effort, they could also achieve better planting results. The group of people stared right at the small magic plowing machine, which took less than 10 minutes to pluck an entire mow of farmland. Looking at the incomparably fluffy soil in the farmland, it took a while for them to come back to their senses. Several nobles who reacted quickly charged in front of Sue, standing beside Viscount Leslie, and impatiently shouted, "Chairman Sue, where's the small magic plowing machine that I ordered? Has it been made already? Send it over to me now." "Send what?" "Chairman Sue, I'll send people to your company to get it now. There's still many fields in my family waiting to be plowed." "Hey, don't think that you're the only one who placed the order. I placed the order as soon as possible." "Chairman Sue, you have to remember first come, first serve." Seeing the actions of these people, the other nobles instantly reacted. They charged in front of Sue and also began shouting. Seeing these nobles making such a racket without any grace, the commoners and farmers were shocked for a long time before they finally reacted. After looking at each other, the commoners all revealed gloomy expressions. Although this small magic plowing machine's effects were shocking, it was clear that it was very expensive, not to mention them not being able to afford it. Even if they could afford it, the nobles were working hard to buy it, so how could it fall into the hands of commoners like them? Thinking of this, these peasants gave a sigh and shook their heads before preparing to leave. They couldn't understand why Viscount Leslie would invite them here. This kind of place wasn't a place that peasants like them should come to. However, when these peasants were about to leave, a man who looked very decent, whether it was his appearance or his clothes, came out from the side. He said to everyone with a faint smile, "Everyone, please wait. I am New Flyer's financial manager, Seabass. May I ask everyone, are you also interested in the small magic plowing machine?" The peasants were stunned. They looked at Seabass, who had a very sincere expression, and after hesitating a bit, they all nodded. It had to be said, the shock that this small magic plowing machine gave them was too strong. It would be nonsense to say that they didn't want it. Seeing everyone nod, Seabass revealed a smile and continued, "Since it's like this, I think that everyone will be interested in the farmer support plan that our company has recently launched." Chapter 61. You were introduced by Reeves? Sue looked at the young noble who had been introduced by Viscount Leslie in a daze. He never thought that a name that he hadn't heard in a long time would come from his mouth. Baron Hannes gave a slight bow before replying with a faint smile, "Yes, when he heard that I was coming to Banda City, Uncle Reeves told me that I had to find a chance to contact the New Flyer. Uncle Reeves also said that he was very regretful that he didn't get the chance to cooperate with you on the Magic Fan last time. If your company has any other new products, he will definitely cooperate with you again if there is a chance." Reeves' normal but shrewd face flashed in Su Yi's mind. towards this large customer who wanted to order 1,000 magic fans. Sue, he had a deep impression of him. When a new flyer had just been established and the magic fan had just been developed, it was far from being as famous as it was now in Banda City. It even had a bit of fame in the surrounding cities. However, in this situation, Reeves actually dared to order such a large amount. It could be seen that his vision was far and his courage was large. What made Sue even more surprised was that he still remembered their small company after a few months and even had someone come and contact them. Sue, he looked over Baron Hannes. He thought that although this fellow was young, he was still a baron. Moreover, he could find him through Viscount Leslie, which meant that he had some status in Anvilmar City. This kind of person still called Reeves' uncle, so it could be seen that Reeves was indeed an important person. Reeves, why is Mr. certain that we have a new product? Sue, he asked in a curious voice. Baron Hannes revealed a smile. I also asked Uncle Reeves the same thing, and he said that although he had met you, Chairman Sue, he could see that Chairman Sue was an ambitious person. You definitely wouldn't be satisfied with just a single product like the magic fan. Sue, he awkwardly rubbed his nose as his expression became a bit awkward. Am I so easily seen through? Viscount Leslie on the side laughed. Sue, if I didn't see your ambition and ability, do you think I would be willing to cooperate with you? Sue, he shrugged helplessly. Is the word ambition written all over my face? Baron Hannes laughed as well. Chairman Sue, you are so humorous. It's not a bad thing to have ambition, is it? Since you've established such a unique chamber of commerce. Then if you weren't wild. Well, I prefer what Uncle Reeves calls ambitious. If you weren't ambitious, how could you have allowed this chamber of commerce to continue developing? All right, I admit it. I'm wild, very ambitious. Well, I like the way you put it. Our new flyer is just starting out, but in the future, I will definitely make it the top chamber of commerce in the entire Lampari Kingdom, and even the entire Signs. Sue nodded vigorously. I believe you. Baron Hannes smiled and nodded. Baron Hannes nodded with a smile. But Chairman Sue, I'm still very curious. I've heard that you were a very outstanding magician, and from the small magic plowing machine, just now, I can see that your level of earth magic arrays is quite high. Since it's like this, why didn't you choose to continue studying magic and become a powerful magician? Why did you choose to study magic machines? I think that you should be very clear that even if New Flyer becomes the largest company in the Signs, as a merchant, you won't be as respected as a powerful magician, right? You're not the first person to ask me this question. So he looked at Viscount Leslie. Just a month ago, Viscount Leslie had also asked him this question. This question isn't easy to answer. I can only tell you that this is my personal interest. Baron Hannes knit his brows, clearly not satisfied with this answer. Chairman Sue, just based on your personal interest, I'm afraid it can't make you give up on being a magician with great prospects and become a merchant, right? Sue, he gave a shrug. He thought that he couldn't tell him that his dream was to create a complete industrial system in the Signs, right? Even when Viscount Leslie asked, Sue, he had only told him that compared to studying magic, he liked studying magic machines more. This kind of answer about his personal interests and ambitions was not something that people could understand or be satisfied with, but it was something that people couldn't refute. Up to now, Sue, he had only revealed a trace of his true thoughts in front of great magician Camilla and Steele. As for this Baron Hannes, their relationship was too far apart. Baron Hannes, I think that if you throw this question to Mr. Lewis, he might be able to understand it more easily than you. That's right. You said that Mr. Lewis wanted to cooperate with our new flyer. I wonder if he has mentioned any specific cooperation plans? So he quickly changed the topic. He hasn't. Baron Hannes was still young, so it was very easy for Sue to divert his attention. He shook his head and said, Uncle Lewis just had me take a look first and try to meet with you to raise this idea. As for how to cooperate, I'm not familiar with this matter. So how about Chairman Sue tell me what cooperation there is? Sue knit his brows. Me? Actually, I don't know anything about Mr. Lewis. I don't even know what he does. So how could I know how to cooperate? Baron Hannes' eyes opened wide in surprise. You actually don't know Uncle Lewis' identity? Could it be that he didn't tell you last time? Sue, he shook his head. He just gave me a letter, and it only had his name and address. I don't know anything else. Baron Hannes was surprised. Uncle Lewis gave you an address? What address is it? Let me think. It seems to be Anvil Mars City's Sloane Streets, 23rd. Or was it 24th? I'm sorry. I don't have the letter on me, so I can't remember it clearly. As soon as his voice fell, he found that Viscount Leslie and Baron Hannes had strange expressions on their faces. Viscount Leslie only had a trace of surprise in his eyes, but Baron Hannes looked at like he was looking at a monster. Uncle Lewis actually gave you a personal letter? God above. I never thought that Uncle Lewis would place such importance on you. No wonder he specially had me come see you. Although he was a bit confused, based on their reactions, he could guess that the letter Lewis gave him back then wasn't something that could be easily obtained. This made him very curious. Lewis had clearly only met him once, so why did he place such importance on him? Could it be that this fellow had foresight and knew that he would develop more magic machines, changing the continent? Chairman Sue, I think I need to get to know you again. After Baron Hannes recovered from his surprise, he revealed a serious expression. Baron Hannes revealed a serious look. Uncle Lewis has always been known for his ability to see through people. Since he places such importance on you, there must be something about you that is worthy of his attention. How about this? I'll be in Banta City for around half a month. During this half a month, Chairman Sue, can I understand more about you and your new flyer? He couldn't help being surprised. How do you want to understand? For example, I might stay by your side all day and observe your actions. I might also go to the factories under your company and observe your operations. I might even ask around Banta City and see what people think of your company. He felt a chill run down his spine. This Baron Hannes methods. Why were they like the paparazzi from Earth? I'm afraid this. He wanted to reject him, but he saw Viscount Leslie give him a nod and immediately swallowed his words. What are you afraid of? Hannes asked with an expectant look. He saw Viscount Leslie's expression when he ran over, and after considering it, he said with a smile, I'm afraid it'll take up a lot of your time, right? No. I'm very interested in you and the new flyer right now. This way I can understand you more. When I return to Anvil Mars City and Uncle Lewis asks me, I'll be able to give him a more detailed explanation. It's like this. He pretended to hesitate for a bit before giving a slight nod. All right, since Baron Hannes has this idea, I represent myself and the new flyer to warmly welcome you. Chapter 62. I don't welcome him. Heinz's face was pale, completely revealing the unhappiness in his heart. When you agreed to this fellow coming, why didn't you tell me? Don't you know that in order to make the magic rice cooker, we are working hard every day? I'm so busy every day, but you're stuffing in this kind of delicate young master from a noble family. Do you still want us to work properly? Looked at Baron Hannes, who had a curious look on his face as he ran around the workshop like a cat, and he couldn't help saying, It can't be, right? Didn't I say that you don't need to care about him? Just treat him as if he doesn't exist. You don't need to treat him as a noble young master. Anyway, he said that we don't need to be polite to him. It's easy for you to say. Heinz angrily said, No matter what, he is still a noble young master from Anvil Mars City, and based on what you said, he must be from a large noble family. There are so many production magic machines and parts in this workshop. If something happens to him, or he's even injured, how can our factory continue operating? Even if nothing happens to him, just by standing here, he will affect our normal work. Look, he's even harassing our workers. My God, he actually wants to control the magic thread rolling machine. And Heinz quickly ran over and pulled back Baron Hannes, who was eager to try. Baron Hannes, you can look around the workshop, but I think you should forget about operating it yourself, right? He had received enough hints from Viscount Leslie, so he knew that Baron Hannes' background wasn't small, so he tried to be as kind as possible to him. There's a bit of danger in operating this production magic machine. If you haven't been trained and want to operate it, it's very likely that you'll be injured. Look, this head can flatten an iron nail, so I think that it shouldn't be hard to break your fingers or even your arm, right? Baron Hannes was a bit surprised. It can't be, right? I think that these workers are quite easy to operate. That's because they're already skilled workers. You have to know, when these production magic machines were first brought in, the workers in charge of operating them were all injured. One of them even had his arm broken. After saying this, Su-Yi desperately signaled to the workers beside the magic thread rolling machine with his eyes. The workers understood and hurriedly chimed in. Right. That kid Tucci's arm still can't use it. That's right. This thing is very dangerous. I almost got caught in it last time, and if I didn't react fast enough, I might have lost my arm. Right, this magic machine isn't something that can be casually played with. People who aren't familiar with it might be injured. Hearing the frightening words of the workers, Baron Hannes hesitated for a moment. He could only sigh and give up helplessly. All right then, I won't operate it myself. I'll just watch you guys operate it. Su-Yi and Heinz let out a sigh of relief, but they saw Baron Hannes take out a small book and a pen, recording something in front of the two of them. There's a bit of danger in operating the production magic machines. There are even workers who have been injured. Su-Yi looked at the record in the book, and his face twitched. He never thought that the things he casually made up to fool him would be recorded by him. It was a good thing that there wasn't a workers' union in the signs right now. Otherwise, just based on this record, his workshop would have to close down. Thinking of this, Su-Yi suddenly thought of something. Although he paid attention to the workers' welfare, the safety measures and compensation weren't perfect enough. The workers in the workshop hadn't had any accidents yet, so this hidden danger hadn't been exposed. But once something happened, if there weren't proper measures, there would be a problem. The only workers in the workshop before were Viscount Leslie's slaves, but now that they had recruited 100 normal workers, they had to pay attention to this problem. Thinking of this, Su-Yi explained everything to Heinz in front of Baron Hannes. Seeing Baron Hannes record everything in the little book, Su-Yi couldn't help revealing a faint smile. This Baron Hannes was recording these things. It was clear that he would bring them back for Louis to see. If these things could catch Louis' interest or even importance, it would be helpful to Su-Yi's future plans. After visiting the household magic machine workshop, Su-Yi followed Baron Hannes to the production magic machine workshop. Seeing that the workshop was filled with dwarves, Baron Hannes was very surprised. Since the race wars thousands of years ago, there were fewer and fewer races in human society. Even in the Lampari Kingdom's capital, Anvilmar City, there were only a few dwarves, not to mention 100 dwarves at once. Baron Hannes couldn't hold back the excitement in his heart as he grabbed the leader canby to ask all kinds of questions. Only these questions weren't related to the production magic machines. Rather, they were related to the daily lives of the dwarves. Seeing Baron Hannes excitedly asking questions, Su-Yi couldn't help shaking his head as he was certain in his heart. If this Baron Hannes was placed on Earth, the most suitable job for him would be paparazzi. Thinking of paparazzi, Su-Yi suddenly had an idea. He remembered that a month ago, he had asked Heinz if there were any newspapers in Bandit City. The answer he received was that there were only bulletins from the city lord's manor, and there weren't any proper newspapers. Now that he saw Baron Hannes acting like a paparazzi, Su-Yi couldn't help thinking of the tabloids on Earth. Then he suddenly thought that since there weren't any newspapers in this world, why didn't he just create one himself? On Earth, before the internet appeared, newspapers were the key tools that controlled the mouths of the people. If one could control newspapers, it was equal to controlling public opinion and could even guide the hearts of the people to a certain extent. If Su-Yi could make a newspaper now, it would definitely create a stir in the world. Of course, in the signs where class was still very important, trying to control the hearts of the people was seeking death. But this didn't stop him from obtaining other benefits through newspapers, for example, advertising. Thinking of this, Su-Yi's helpless eyes looking at Baron Hannes instantly changed. Hashtag in the blink of an eye. More than 10 days had passed, and it was officially the 10th month of autumn. Most of the green leaves on the trees had been dyed golden yellow, and the people on the streets had gradually begun to put on long gowns. The cool breeze brought by the flowing air had also begun to carry a trace of coolness. As for the summer heat, it had long disappeared. This day was a normal day for Banda City. But early in the morning, the people of the city felt that something was off. Newspapers are being sold. Newspapers are being sold. The new Banta Times. Inside and outside the city, all the big and small news are in the Banta Times. A little boy who was around 11 or 12 years old was walking down the street while shouting this slogan. Hearing his slogan, the people on the street all stopped and looked at the little boy with curious gazes. "Hey kid, what is the Banta Times? What big and small news? What does it do?" A large man who was closest to the little boy asked in a low voice. The little boy wasn't nervous at all. He took out several sheets of newspaper from the cloth bag in front of his chest with a smile and handed it over. "Look, this is the Banta Times. There are many things that happen in and outside Banta City recorded in it. Are you interested in buying a copy to take a look? It's very cheap. It only costs 1 silver coin per copy. Let me take a look first before I decide if I want to buy it or not." The large man was prepared to grab it, but the little boy nimbly dodged it. "This customer, the most important thing about this newspaper is the things recorded in it. If you finish reading it, I won't be able to sell it to you. How about it? As long as it costs 1 silver coin, you can read it as you wish." The burly man glared at the little boy, but under the watchful eyes of the people around him, he could only obediently take out a silver coin and toss it to the little boy. Then, he put on an arrogant expression and flipped open the newspaper to read. Compared to the villages outside Banta City, the people of Banta City had a higher degree of education. This large man looked very vulgar, but he was still literate. When he opened the newspaper, he loudly read it. Front page headline, "Farmer Support Plan, good." In the past few days, the Frestec Chamber of Commerce, who had developed the small magic harvester and the small magic plowing machine, had announced that they would be starting a plan to support the normal farmers in Banta City. They wanted to help the normal farmers finish farming faster, and after a month of experimentation, this plan had already achieved initial success. The 3 villages outside Banta City, including Ireland Village, were the first test sites for this plan, so the farmers there have already enjoyed the benefits of this plan. Regarding this plan, Banta City's city, Lord Count Sean Samo has called it a good plan for the citizens and praised New Flyer for being a company with a conscience. Hearing the large man read this, the surrounding people began to discuss this. "I've also heard of this farmer support plan. I have a relative who lives in Ireland Village. I've heard that there was a fellow in their village who rented a small magic plowing machine from the Frestec Chamber of Commerce and used 3 days to plow all the soil in Ireland Village. Moreover, he earned over 4 gold coins in 3 days with this thing. How did he earn that much? It's very simple. He used the small magic plowing machine to help people plow, and he earned 2 silver coins per moo. Ireland Village has over 200 moo of farmland, and it was all taken by him. So how much do you think he earned? The people of Ireland Village all had him plow the soil. Why didn't they do it themselves? Are you stupid? If they plow the soil themselves, how long would it take to plow a moo of land? They would be half dead from exhaustion. If they had him help, it wouldn't even take 10 minutes to plow a moo of land, and it would only cost 2 silver coins, so why wouldn't they do it? Can't they use the time and energy they save to do something else? That's right. I've heard that the Lord City Lord has decided to fix the roads, and New Flyer is hiring workers, so they are hiring workers all over the place. If they have the time to do this, they can earn more than 2 silver coins. That's right. Hearing the discussions of the surrounding people, the large man became even more proud and read even more energetically. However, there were many people who didn't want to wait for him to keep reading. They came in front of the little boy and gave him a silver coin before picking up a copy to read. After a while, the newspaper in front of the little boy's chest was snatched clean, and there were many people who didn't get a copy at all. Seeing everyone's disappointed expressions, the little boy put down his hand that was counting the silver coins and shouted with a smile, "There will be Banta Times delivered every day, so if everyone wants to buy it, please come early." Chapter 63. A horse carriage drove out of Viscount Leslie's manor and quickly headed onto the smooth road to Banta City. Inside the horse carriage, Viscount Leslie was currently reading the Banta Times in his hand. After looking at it for a while, Viscount Leslie gave a nod of praise. This thing really isn't bad. I'm certain that this thing will definitely become popular. Suit E. It'll be much easier for you to advertise in the future. Suit E. Sitting in front of Viscount Leslie stopped reading and looked up with a smile. Lord Viscount, although you're right, and I made this thing to make it easier for me to advertise in the future, you can't say this in front of Baron Hannes. He will definitely be angry. Viscount Leslie laughed. That's right. That fellow is invested in this thing. I think that if you ran to him and told him that you wanted to advertise in it, he wouldn't even give face to you as the founder, right? Suit E gave a shrug. That doesn't matter. Anyway, I made this newspaper to give him something to do, so he won't be around me in the factory all day, causing Hines to complain to me all day. Viscount Leslie laughed even louder. Suit E, if Hines heard your honest words, he would definitely be angered to death by you. Is he that annoying? No, Lord Viscount, you can't speak nonsense like this. How could Baron Hannes be annoying? Only, he cares too much about me and the new flyer, so it will affect our work a bit. Now that I've specially developed the magic printing press for him and provided enough funds and space to create this Banta Times for him, Baron Hannes is very grateful to me. If he misunderstands me after hearing this, it would be a large loss for me. Viscount Leslie shook his head. Hannes is still too young, being tricked by you this easily. According to his schedule, he should be heading back to Anvilmar City, but now that you've made this Banta Times, he's so happy that he forgot about going back. Well, I met him the day before yesterday. He even told me that he wanted to stay here and make the Banta Times better and better. I really don't know what he is thinking. Suit E revealed a faint smile, thinking that this was actually very simple. The Banta Times was a very novel thing in the signs. Not only did it satisfy Baron Hannes' gossiping nature, it also satisfied his hot-blooded nature as a young man in his early 20s. He felt that he could control many things with this newspaper, so naturally he was very passionate about it. Of course, the reason why Suit E pushed him to the position of chief editor of the Banta Times wasn't just to give him something to do and not let him bother him. As for the Banta Times, Suit E had considered it very clearly. Although this was a new thing for the signs, he believed that there would be many people who would see the large power that this new thing would bring. With Su Yi's current status, it wasn't suitable for him to control this thing. So when he created the Banta Times, although he provided the idea, funds, and space, he gave the ownership of the newspaper to Viscount Leslie. After talking to Baron Hannes, he convinced him to become the chief editor. On the surface, the Banta Times didn't seem to be related to Suit E and the new flyer, but this newspaper would definitely be influenced by Suit E, so it would definitely be biased towards the new flyer. Actually, you can tell Baron Hannes that even if he returns to Anvilmar City, he can still be the chief editor. At worst, he can just create his own Anvilmar Times. Suit E said with a smile. Viscount Leslie looked at Suit E with a gaze of deep meaning before shaking his head. Do you think that Anvilmar City is the same as here? It isn't easy to do something in Anvilmar City, especially something as sensitive as a newspaper. Do you believe that if this was Anvilmar City, even if this newspaper really appeared, it would become something completely different for what you imagined? Naturally, I believe this. Suit E had an understanding look as he nodded. Viscount Leslie looked out the window to the north and was in a daze for a while. Suddenly, he gave a sigh and turned back, recovering his calm expression as he asked Suit E, "Forget it. Let's not talk about this. Have you thought about what you'll say to Sir Count when you see him?" Suit E tapped the information in his hand before pointing at his head. "It's all prepared." "That's good." Viscount Leslie nodded. Viscount Leslie nodded. "This is your first time meeting Sir Count. You have to leave a good impression on him. If you can obtain his support, whether it is for you or for the company, it will be a great help." "Of course I understand this." The horse carriage drove into Banta City and didn't stop heading north, finally stopping in front of the city lord's manor in the north. Suit E and Viscount Leslie jumped out of the horse carriage, and a middle-aged man, wearing the uniform of a butler, came forward to welcome them. "Viscount Leslie, the Lord City Lord has been waiting for a long time." The middle-aged man, who should be the butler of the city lord's manor, came forward with a smile before looking at Sue. "This must be Chairman Sue, right? Please come with me." This butler's attitude towards Viscount Leslie and Sue E was very different. He was very warm when greeting Viscount Leslie and even had a trace of respect, but he was much colder when facing Sue E, like he was greeting a passerby. Sue E naturally wouldn't feel disappointed because of this. With his current status, being able to meet the Lord City Lord was because of Viscount Leslie's face. Viscount Leslie placed more importance on Sue E, so he specially introduced him to Sue E. "Sue E, this is Sir Count's Butler 8. You will see him many times in the future, so you have to remember him." Sue E nodded to Butler 8 with a faint smile. Butler 8 looked at Viscount Leslie with a bit of surprise, but when he looked at Sue E again, he revealed a faint smile, seeming much friendlier than before. After a simple greeting, Sue E consciously fell behind Viscount Leslie by half a step as he followed Butler 8 into the City Lord's manor. This City Lord's manor wasn't as big as Sue E expected. After walking for a bit, they arrived in front of a large hall that looked like a reception hall. However, Butler 8 didn't lead the two of them in. Rather, he turned around and led the way. "Sir City Lord has already prepared dinner in the dining hall. Please come with me." Hearing Butler 8's explanation, Sue E couldn't help taking another look at Viscount Leslie. Although he already knew that Viscount Leslie had a good relationship with the City Lord Count Sean Samo, based on Butler 8's attitude towards him and the Sir City Lord inviting them to the dining hall, their relationship was much closer than Sue E had expected. It seemed like the family behind Viscount Leslie really wasn't weak. Otherwise, with a small Viscount like him, it was impossible for him to have such a good relationship with a respected city lord and a noble count. Very quickly, the two of them were led to the dining hall by Butler 8, and they saw Sean Samo Count sitting in the dining hall. Seeing the two of them, Sean Count immediately broke out in laughter and waved his hand to have them sit down. When they sat down, Sue E suddenly felt a strange, cool breeze coming from behind him. He turned around in surprise and saw a magic air conditioner hanging on the wall of the dining hall. It was currently releasing a faint blue glow and blowing a cool breeze in their direction. Noticing Sue Yi's actions, Sean Count broke out in laughter again. "Chairman Sue, do you still remember that our first meeting was at the banquet Leslie held that night? If my guesses aren't wrong, this kid was in cahoots with you when he held the banquet. He wanted to help you advertise the magic air conditioner, right? Otherwise, with this kid's temper, how could he find a bunch of people to bother him for no reason?" Sue E and Viscount Leslie looked at each other in surprise before saying with a smile, "Sir City Lord really is wise. That's right, I did ask the Lord Viscount for help at that banquet, and the goal was indeed to advertise the magic air conditioner. Of course, isn't the effect very good? Of course it's good. Didn't you see that even I couldn't resist the temptation and bought several at once?" Sean Count pointed at Viscount Leslie. "I thought back then that even this arrogant kid was willing to help you. Sue E, you must be a very capable fellow. I never thought that my expectations were too low. In just 2 months, your new flyer has already made all these new things. It really has opened my eyes. Sir City Lord's praise is too much. These are just some small things that I made when I was bored. It really isn't much." Sue E quickly said in a modest voice. "Small things?" Sean Count looked at Sue E and revealed a faint smile, but he didn't say anything else. He turned to give a nod to Butler 8 on the side. Butler 8 clapped his hands, and a group of maids came out with various plates. The last maid was different from the maids in front of her. On the plate she was holding, there was actually a magic rice cooker. Seeing Sue E and Viscount Leslie's stunned expressions, Sean Count gave another long laugh. "What, you don't like eating rice?" Viscount Leslie gave a shrug as he moved in a natural manner. "Sir Count, you know that I've never been picky about what I eat." Sue E couldn't help knitting his brows. This Sir City Lord had been showing him his understanding of the new flyer since the beginning. So was this a sign of goodwill or a warning? Chapter 64. Even if there were only 3 people, This banquet in the city lord's manor still lasted an hour before it was over. After they finished eating, Sue, E, and Viscount Leslie were invited by the Samoyed Count to a room that wasn't considered big. After chatting for a bit, the Samoyed Count quickly changed the topic to Sue, E. Chairman Sue, since you had that kid Leslie come out to ask me to see you, now that you've seen me, you can't be as silent as you were at the table, right? Viscount Leslie looked at Sue, E when he heard this, and Sue, E nodded. After organizing his thoughts, he said with a faint smile, Lord City Lord, this is my first time meeting you, so I'm a bit nervous, so I can't help being a bit silent. The Samoyed Count waved his hand. That kid, Leslie, didn't say this when he introduced you to me. He said that you were a fellow with ideas, and based on the development of your new flyer, I believe in his judgment. You're saying that you're nervous seeing me? I don't think so, right? Sue-E smiled and decided to change this topic. After thinking about it, he continued, All right, then whether I'm nervous or not, I can only not be nervous now. Lord City Lord, I asked the Lord Viscount to see me this time because I need your help with something. It's good that you have something. If you didn't have anything, would you come see an old man like me for nothing? I'm not a beauty. The Samoyed Count said with a nod. Speak, just what is it? If it's like that kid Leslie, finding me to help you advertise your company's products, that won't do. There are many companies in Banna City. I can't favor one over the others. So he couldn't help smiling. He never thought that this Samoyed Count would be this interesting. That was good. If he had been a stubborn old noble, it would have been difficult to get him to agree to what he wanted to discuss today. Of course not. You are the city lord of Banna City. It would be too much of a waste to just invite you to advertise. Oh, does that mean I'm more useful? Samoyed Count looked at Sue-E with interest. Ha, Sir City Lord, I believe you should have some understanding of the farmer support plan that our Chamber of Commerce launched some time ago, right? Sue-E asked. Samoyed Count nodded. Not only do I have some understanding of it, I've studied it thoroughly. I have to say, the plan proposed by your Chamber of Commerce is very outstanding. If we can smoothly implement this, I think that it will be of great help to the lives of our Banna City's farmers. Improving the lives of ordinary farmers is actually just a preliminary goal, Sue-E continued. The more important reason why our company wants to carry out this plan is to popularize the agricultural magic machines of our company, greatly increasing the farming ability of normal farmers. We'll help them open up more farmland and increase their grain yield, improving their lives while also freeing them from the farmland, giving them more time to do other work. For example, working in your company's factory. Samoyed Count raised a brow as he asked this. Sue-E laughed. Sir City Lord, the jobs in our company's factory are very popular right now. I think that if the farmers had a choice, they would definitely agree. Samoyed Count gave a slight nod. I didn't know a bit about this. I've heard that the workers in your company's factory can earn at least 6 gold coins a month. This is considered quite a bit in our Banna City. Actually, if I have to be honest, this wage is a bit low. I would rather give the workers a bit of a wage so that they can work for our company for a long time. You might not know this, but during this time, Saltan City's Leo Chamber of Commerce has used high wages to poach many of our company's workers. It has forced us to recruit new workers and train them, which has delayed our production quite a bit. Saltan City's Chamber of Commerce. Count Sean frowned. Samoyed knit his brows. There are companies from other cities that came to our Banna City to poach people, so you let them poach them away? He spread his hands and revealed a helpless look. There's no other way. The Leo Chamber of Commerce gave them a high wage of 10 gold coins a month. There were quite a few workers who couldn't take this and were poached away. Samoyed Count gave a soft snort. 10 gold coins? They really are willing to spend money. But why did this Leo Chamber of Commerce poach your workers? Because the Leo Chamber of Commerce produces the same magic machines as our company. He explained. So it's like this. Then do you have any corresponding measures? Why don't you raise the wages of the workers? Samoyed Count asked. This, Sir City Lord, although I would like to directly raise the wages of the workers, as a Chamber of Commerce with long-term plans, rashly raising the wages of the workers is not a correct decision because this will disrupt our entire plan and very likely affect the development of the Chamber of Commerce in the future. Thus, we can only compensate in other ways, such as giving more benefits to the workers as compensation. Of course, only a small portion of the workers have been poached, and most of the workers are willing to stay with our company. I don't care what plans your company has, but I hope that you can properly take care of this matter. Your new flyer is the fastest developing and most promising company in Urbana City. I don't want you to be easily defeated. Samyed, Count waved his hand as he spoke. Suyi's eyes popped out in surprise. Based on the meaning in Samyed Count's words, he was clearly very certain and supportive of new flyer. This was very good news for Suyi. With the support of the Bana City Lord, at least in Bana City, new flyer would have less trouble. Sir City Lord, please be assured. Although the Leo Chamber of Commerce is several times stronger than our new flyer, when it comes to magic machines, I can guarantee that they are not our match, Su-Yi said in a strangely certain voice. Samyed Count looked at Su-Yi for a while before giving a satisfied nod. Very good. Then let's return to the topic from before. You said that the farmer support plan was mainly to free the farmers from the fields and let them do other work. I can understand this idea, but do you know that for Banta City and even the entire Lampari Kingdom, the fields are the most fundamental thing? If there isn't enough grain to produce, everything is fake. When a person is hungry, they can do anything. Seeing Samyed Count's serious expression, Su-Yi also became serious. He said with a serious nod, I understand the Lord's worries. But Lord City Lord, I think that it is because you don't understand the agricultural magic machines, so you are worried. On this, you might be doubtful if I say anything, so I'll let the Lord Viscount explain it to you. Samyed Count looked at Viscount Leslie on the side. Viscount Leslie was already prepared, so he calmly put down the teacup in his hand and nodded with a faint smile. Sir Count, I can testify for Su-Yi on this point. Let's take the situation in my territory as an example. During the fall harvest this year, there are a total of 7 hectares of wheat that need to be harvested in my territory. If it was in the past, I would need to use all my slaves, guards, and other labor to harvest this 7 hectares in half a month. But after I bought 2 small magic harvesters from the Frestec Chamber of Commerce this year, it only took less than 2 days to harvest all of it. Moreover, I only used less than 20 slaves from beginning to end. Samyed Count raised a brow. Is what you said true? In just 2 days, you used less than 20 slaves to harvest all of it? Sir Count, how could I lie to you? Not only me, you can also ask the other nobles in Bana City. As long as there are wheat fields in their territories that need to be harvested, everyone has bought a small magic harvester, which saves them a large amount of time and labor. Sir Count, your territory isn't here, but if it was, I strongly recommend you buy 2, because this thing is just too easy to use. Samyed Count seriously looked over Su-Yi for a while before slowly nodding. I only heard a bit before, but I never thought that it would be this shocking. Su-Yi, even if we don't mention anything else, just based on this small magic harvester, your new flyer has made a large contribution. Viscount Leslie said with a laugh. Sir Count, don't be anxious. I'm not done yet. Other than the small magic harvester, New Flyer has also released the small magic plowing machine, which has greatly increased the efficiency of plowing the soil before planting. Now, with the help of the small magic plowing machine, I've already decided to open up the 21 hectares of farmland in my territory. When it's time to plant all of it, if nothing unexpected happens, next year's harvest will be several times higher than this year's. Samyed Count didn't reveal a look of pleasant surprise this time. Rather, he knit his brows. Leslie, how could farming be this simple? Even if it's like you said, with the small magic harvester, it can increase the harvesting speed, and with the small magic plowing machine, it can increase the efficiency of plowing the soil. But farming isn't just about harvesting and plowing the soil. There are also things like growing seedlings, planting seeds, weeding, and drought resistance. You're opening up this much farmland. Are you certain you have enough people? Viscount Leslie smiled without replying as he looked at Su-Yi. Lord City Lord, the so-called agricultural magic machines aren't just the small magic harvester and the small magic harvester. Our new flyer will also develop the small magic excavator, the small magic water pump, the small magic digging machine, the small magic grater, and other magic machines. Our final goal is to use magic machines to replace all human labor, freeing human labor from farming. Just yesterday, I discussed this with Viscount Leslie. We're planning to redesign the farmland in his territory, making it more suitable for farming magic machines and more suitable for planting rice. Wait, it's more suitable for growing rice. Count Sean was stunned. Samoyed was surprised. Banta City mainly grows wheat. Why is Leslie changing to planting rice? This place isn't like Karma City with a rich water source. It's not worth it, right? Viscount Leslie revealed a smile. Lord Count, Banta City's water source isn't bad. It was just hard to use it before. Now, with the help of the magic machines, it's much easier to use it. Then again, isn't it easy to get tired of eating bread every day? You have to change your taste occasionally. Samuel Count turned to look at Sue E and suddenly gave a cold snort. I remember now. Your new flyer has been promoting a new product. It's the magic rice cooker. This thing needs people to eat rice the most. No wonder you urged that kid Leslie to plant rice. You want our entire Banta City to plant rice, right? Sue E smiled without saying a thing. Chapter 65. Talking to Samo Count had been very happy, so naturally it was a bit longer. When Sue E returned home, the moon was already high in the sky and it was late at night. When he opened the door, Vivian wasn't waiting for him as usual. The house was dark and quiet, and there wasn't the slightest bit of sound. She shouldn't have been able to wait, so she went to sleep. Sue E thought in his heart. When he took off his shoes and entered the room, he was surprised to find that on the table in the living room, there was a figure lying on it, looking carefully under the moonlight. Who else could it be other than Vivian? Based on the dishes on the table that hadn't been touched at all, it was possible that she had already prepared dinner at home. She had been waiting for Sue E to come back for dinner, but when she couldn't wait, she fell asleep. Seeing Vivian's sleeping little face, Sue E's heart filled with a trace of apology. Because Viscount Leslie had informed him that he was going to the City Lord's Palace's banquet, he didn't have time to come back and tell Vivian, making this little girl wait the entire time. I've been talking to Leslie and Samo Count about liberating productivity, but I've confined a young girl like Vivian to this small room. It really isn't right. He shook his head and gave a sigh. He leaned over and softly picked up Vivian. Compared to when Sue E had bought her, although the current Vivian was still slender, she was clearly much heavier. It was a bit hard for Sue E to pick her up. This was because 1. Vivian was at a fast-developing age, and 2. Sue E's living conditions were much better than when she was Viscount Leslie's slave, so her body condition quickly improved. Other than her body growing meat, the other parts of Vivian's body were clearly developing. When Sue E was holding her, he could easily feel the fullness of her body, which made him a bit restless. It was a good thing that Sue E wasn't an impulsive young man who was in his teens or 20s. Even if he knew that Vivian definitely wouldn't dare reject him, he still forced down his restlessness. He carried Vivian in her bedroom and put her down to sleep. After returning to the living room, Sue E lit a candle. As soon as the candle lit up, it was like something flashed in Sue Yi's mind, and he suddenly tapped his head. Idiot, you're always thinking about what magic machine to invent. Isn't there a ready-made thing for me to make? Hey, if I develop this thing, Heinz will definitely be very satisfied. Since he began researching magic machines, Sue Yi's mind would often have all kinds of ideas. There were some ideas that couldn't be realized because the science industry was weak, but there were some that could be realized, and Sue E recorded them one by one, waiting for the right time to release them. Now that he suddenly thought of this idea, Sue E followed his habit and took out his notebook to record it down. When he sat down at the table, Sue E was surprised to find that on the table Vivian had been lying on, there were several pieces of paper with drawings on them. There were also several pieces on the ground to the side. Sue E picked up these pieces of paper to look over and found that the drawings on these pieces of paper were diagrams of various magic machines. Sue Yi's face sunk. These diagrams were drawn when he occasionally studied them at home, but he never thought that Vivian's memory would be this good. Just by looking at them a few times, she could draw them all. These diagrams seemed normal, but they could be considered New Flyer's trade secrets. If they fell into the hands of people like the Leo Chamber of Commerce, who cared about magic machines, it would be a loss to New Flyer that would be greater than selling a few hundred magic machines. Sue-Yi calmly thought about it, and quickly ruled out the possibility that Vivian was a corporate spy that made one's heart turn cold. Since Sue-Yi bought her, Vivian almost never left the house, and the only outsider she had contact with was Steele. Steele definitely wouldn't be his spy, so even if Vivian wanted to, she didn't have the qualifications to do it. Not to mention that Vivian was Sue-Yi's slave. According to the laws of the Lampari Kingdom, no matter how Sue-Yi treated her, it wouldn't be a problem even if he beat her to death. With Vivian's personality, she didn't have the guts. Thinking of this, Sue-Yi calmed down and seriously looked over the diagrams in his hand. It had to be said, although Vivian couldn't read, her talent for drawing was very high. These diagrams were actually the same as the ones Sue-Yi drew. Other than these diagrams, Vivian had actually drawn many complete designs for magic machines. From the looks of it, she had simply deduced based on these schematic diagrams and then completed the drawing. Although there were some differences from the final magic machines New Flyer made, there wasn't that much of a difference overall. Even Sue-Yi had to admit that just based on appearances, the magic machines drawn by Vivian were even more beautiful. Could it be that this little girl is a natural mechanical designer? Sue-Yi looked at these diagrams, and his expression became very strange. As a genius mechanical engineer from Earth, Sue-Yi had seen many talented people. He knew better than anyone that there were indeed geniuses in this world that could make others speechless. But no matter what, he couldn't connect Vivian, who had always been a pitiful little slave, to a genius, not to mention connecting her to a strong machine. Moreover, before Sue-Yi, Signs didn't have magic machines at all. Who knew how this little girl had this talent? Things that couldn't be explained, Sue-Yi could only use his strong scientific mind to temporarily put it aside. He shook his head and honestly wrote down the ideas that had just appeared in his mind. After tidying up the table, he was too lazy to take a shower and went to sleep with his tired body. The next morning, Sue-Yi woke up to the sound of Vivian making breakfast. Sue-Yi's first thought was that he should move to another room. Otherwise, Vivian would wake him up every time she made breakfast, and he wouldn't be able to sleep in if he wanted to. His second thought was the diagrams he saw last night. After being in a daze for a bit, Sue-Yi got up and quickly washed his face, waking up. By the time he finished washing up, Vivian had already placed the breakfast she had prepared on the table. After living with Sue-Yi for 2 months, Vivian had already formed a tacit understanding with Sue-Yi. Sue-Yi picked up a piece of bread and looked at Vivian, who was waiting for him to eat. After thinking about it, he said, "Vivian, did you not eat dinner last night?" Vivian gave a slight nod. Master didn't come back, so I kept waiting for you. But later, I fell asleep and didn't even know when you came back. I even had a trouble master to carry me in. Remember, if I miss dinner time and don't come back, you don't have to wait for me. I'm very busy with work now, so I may eat out a lot. If you wait for me like this every time, you will often be hungry. Do you understand?" Sue-Yi reminded her. But master, you haven't eaten. How can I eat by myself?" Vivian opened her big eyes and looked at Sue-Yi in confusion. "This is an order, you just have to obey." "Oh," Vivian obediently agreed. Also, Sue-Yi took out the diagrams he put away yesterday and waved them in front of Vivian. "You drew these?" Vivian's face flashed with a trace of shyness, and she lowered her head. "Sorry, master. I didn't ask for your permission and used your pen and paper. That's not important. Come on, raise your head and answer my question properly." Sue-Yi carefully observed Vivian's face and found that there was indeed only a trace of shyness on her face and nothing else, so he was relieved. He didn't believe that such an inexperienced little girl could have such good acting skills, so there should be no problem with Vivian. "Vivian, did you draw these diagrams because you felt bored staying at home, so you drew to pass the time?" Sue-Yi took out one of the diagrams, and it was his portrait. This portrait along with another portrait of Steele and a few landscape paintings, were found by Sui later and further dispelled his suspicion of Vivian. I have to say that you are very talented in drawing. Look, you drew me so well, it's almost like a photo. Sui pointed at his own portrait and praised. Photo. Vivian looked at Sui in shock. What's that? It's something that prints the image directly on the paper. You haven't seen it before. Sui waved his hand. Don't worry about that, Vivian. Answer my question. Do you feel bored staying here all day? No. I'm not bored. I'm very happy here, really. Vivian frantically waved her hands and denied. Tell me the truth, Sui said in a deep voice. Vivian was shocked and hesitated for a long time before replying. Yes, it's a little boring. There are too few things to do here. I'm not used to it. That's right. Since you're bored, you should have told me earlier. Vivian, you've been with me for more than 2 months. Don't you know what kind of person I am? Master, you're a good person. I'm just a slave. You don't have to care about me. Vivian lowered her head and said timidly, even if you're just a slave, you're still my slave. How about this, Vivian? Since you feel that there are too few things to do and it's a little boring, I'll find something for you to do so you won't be bored. Vivian looked up in shock and saw Suyi's evil smile as if he was trying to kidnap a little girl. He asked gently, Vivian, do you want to go to school? Chapter 66. The students of the Baron Richter Magic Academy were a bit surprised. The classes in the school were already arranged every day, but there was a strange extra class today. The name of this class was very strange. It was called the Theoretical Foundations of Magic Machines. Moreover, this was a very rare public class that was open to all the students of the school. This meant that as long as they were willing, any student of the Baron Richter Magic Academy could participate. The students in their adolescence were naturally filled with curiosity, so even if they weren't forced to participate in this class, when the class began, over half of the students of the school came to the large lecture hall. The academy's leaders probably didn't expect so many students to attend the lecture when they arranged for it. Even though the lecture hall was already the academy's largest lecture hall, more than half of the students had rushed in. Not only did they fill up every single seat in the lecture hall, they even filled up all the empty seats in the lecture hall to the point that there wasn't even a place for them to stand. Oren Zedeman was one of the first students to charge into the large lecture hall. He was currently sitting in the front row of the large lecture hall, talking to the students around him in a loud voice. Evan, I dare bet with you that the teacher coming out later will definitely be Chairman Sui. Do you dare bet with me? Oren said to the slender boy on his right in a provocative voice. The boy called Evan gave a cold snort of disdain. You're speaking nonsense. In this entire Banta city, other than Chairman Sue, who else understands magic machines? Could it be that you can find someone else? If I were to bet with you, that would be unless my brain was broken. That's right. Oren, your bet is too ridiculous. I think that we should bet on what Chairman Sue will say later. A boy a bit further away also agreed. Theoretical Foundations of Magic Machines. Based on the name of this class, it should be a simple introduction. After all, this is Chairman Sue's first time giving a lecture, so if he goes too deep, I think that most of the people here won't be able to understand. The one sitting to Oren's left was a girl with a head of smooth golden hair. She pointed at the students with expectant and doubtful looks as she spoke in a low voice. That's right, other than us. Who else understands magic machines? Oren boasted without any shame. If Sui was here, he would have found that the students sitting with Oren were the students who had been drawing magic arrays in the factory for the past few months. Compared to the other students of the Baron Richter Magic Academy, they were indeed qualified to say this. But Oren's voice was a bit loud and was heard by the students not far behind him, causing them to be dissatisfied. Hey, Oren, what are you being arrogant for? Didn't you just work for the Frestec Chamber of Commerce for a few days? Do you really think you understand magic machines that well? I've heard that you guys are only drawing the simplest magic arrays there. What do you mean by understanding magic machines? I think you guys only have a superficial understanding of it. A male student sneered. Oren didn't show any weakness as he turned his head and raised his head, saying, "Even if I only know a superficial understanding, I still know more than you." "What? You don't like it?" That male student immediately became furious, pointing at Oren and sternly shouting, "Good brat, if you have the guts, don't leave after school." Oren snorted, "Fine, I won't leave." Who's afraid of who? Seeing that the quarrel between the two was about to escalate, a teacher just happened to walk into the lecture hall. The students immediately recognized that it was the academy's director, Hiller, who had always been known for his strictness, and instantly quieted down. Oren and that male student glared at each other and could only temporarily cease their banners and drums, turning their attention to the front. Hiller's gaze swept across, and seeing that the lecture hall had quieted down, he nodded his head in satisfaction. Then he lightly coughed and loudly said, "Students, let us warmly welcome the new Flyers chairman, Sue E." Oren and the students beside him looked at each other with a, as expected, look before giving a strong round of applause. Sue E walked up to the lectern and saw Oren and the others sitting in front. He nodded to them with a smile before raising his right hand. The students all quieted down and looked at him with curious gazes. During this time, the new Flyer had released new magic machines one after another. It could be said that they had attracted countless gazes in Banna City and were in the limelight. Towards these magic machines, there were many traditional magicians who called them nonsense and even called them an insult to magic. But for the rebellious students of Baron Richto Magic Academy, they found it very interesting. It made them very interested in the new Flyers chairman, Sue E, who had single-handedly invented these magic machines. Although they already knew from Oren and the others that Sue E was only a young man in his 20s, after personally seeing Sue E, the students were still shocked by how young he was. To these students, learning magic was a very difficult matter. To be able to master magic arrays and even change them at will, as well as fusing them with those ice-cold iron machines, this was an incredible matter. This chairman, Sue, he didn't seem that much older than them. But not only did he have such a strong level of magic, he also had so many strange ideas that made people gasp in surprise. Facing the curious gazes of the students, Sue E spoke. "Students, I know that everyone doesn't like to listen to nonsense, so I'll directly get to the main topic. The reason why I asked Director Hiller to arrange this class for me is not to educate everyone as a teacher, but rather to have a chat with everyone. As for what to talk about, of course it's magic machines. The name of this class is the Theoretical Foundations of Magic Machines, so I'll talk about this foundation. I think that everyone should know a bit about our new Flyers products, so you should know what kind of magic machines are. As for magic machines, everyone is a student of Baron Richto Magic Academy, so you should know more about magic. But you should be a bit unfamiliar with the term machine, so I'll be focusing on machines today. The so-called machine is a kind of tool. Using this tool, people can easily do some work, and it can also reduce the difficulty of some work. Let me give you a simple example. When digging, I don't think anyone would use their hands to dig. Instead, they would use a shovel because it would be easier and more convenient to dig with a shovel. Then a shovel is actually a machine. Of course, a shovel is a very simple machine. As for the machine I'm talking about, it is a bit more complicated. Students, you should know that our Frestec Chamber of Commerce has just released a magic rice cooker. This is a normal household magic machine, and its specific use is to cook rice. Without the magic rice cooker, if everyone wanted to eat rice or porridge, they would need to use firewood to make a fire and then cook the rice in the pot. But with the magic rice cooker, one just needs to pour the rice and water into the magic rice cooker and press the switch. After patiently waiting for a while, it will automatically cook. How about it? Compared to making a fire to cook, isn't this more convenient? Magic machines can also be called magic machines. This is because the machine is the foundation and magic is used to drive the machine. Students, you all study magic, so you should know that magic is very powerful. Then have you ever thought that other than using magic to kill enemies, could it be used in other places? I've thought about it, so I've designed magic machines. Today I don't want to discuss what magic can be used for. I just want to introduce to everyone what magic machines can be used for. For example, the magic rice cooker can be used to cook rice. The small magic harvester can be used to harvest grain more easily. The magic fan can be used to blow out cool air. There are many things that magic can do. Right now, our new flyer has just started, but I believe that everyone will see many different kinds of magic machines in the future. Moreover, I believe that these magic machines will change everyone's lives bit by bit. Why can magic machines do all of this? This is the topic of today's lesson. Magic can be used as a power source and can be used to drive machines to do things that are hard for humans to do. This is actually related to some specialized knowledge. And this knowledge is the theory of magic machines. The basic concept is that magic is the power source and machines are the performance. Specifically speaking, at first, the students only had a bit of doubt and didn't seriously listen. But as Sue kept talking, the expressions on the students' faces gradually became focused. The theory that Sue was talking about was something that the students had never heard of before. The young students were at a stage where they were trying to absorb information from the outside world. So for something as interesting and novel as the theory of magic machines, of course they would be interested in it. So Sue became more and more excited as he spoke, and the students became more and more interested in listening. When Director Shearer came in for the third time to remind him, Sue finally woke up. He found that the sky outside had already turned yellow, and it was already past school time. Sue could only announce that today's lesson would end here. The students weren't satisfied with this, and they all asked Sue to talk a bit more. Sue could only helplessly say that today's lesson would end here. At the same time, he hinted that he would continue teaching in the future, and if the students were interested, they could come and listen again. Only then did the students let Sue go, and they all enthusiastically left the lecture hall. Seeing the enthusiastic appearance of the students, Director Shearer on the side gave a sigh. He shook his head at Sue and said, Chairman Sue, I really shouldn't have agreed to let you teach this lesson. Look, all these students are interested in you. I'm worried that they won't be able to focus in class in the future. Sue laughed. How could that be? Director Shearer, my lesson today has always been related to magic. The students being interested in this is a good thing. They will definitely be more interested in learning magic in the future. You should be happy about this. Are you certain that they are interested in magic and not magic machines? Director Shearer said with a cold snort. Sue laughed. He had donated 500 gold coins to the Baron Ricto Magic Academy, forcing Vivian into the Baron Ricto Magic Academy, while also exchanging for this chance to teach. If he couldn't plant the seed of becoming a magic mechanical engineer in the hearts of these students, this 500 gold coins would have been wasted. As a businessman, how could he do something that would cause him to suffer such a loss? Chapter 67. Since he reached an agreement with great magician Camilla, Sue came back to the Carmilla Magic Tower much more often than before, especially after discussing with the Lord City Lord a few days ago and deciding to develop the agricultural magic machines. Sue came back even more often. The agricultural magic machines needed strong power, and the thing that could provide strong power was naturally more powerful magic. Of the magicians that Sue was working with, other than great magician Camilla, the others didn't have this ability yet. Now Sue had gradually divided the research facility into two parts. One part was Steele, Evita, and Akali, who were mainly in charge of researching the magic arrays needed for the household magic machines. The other part was only left with great magician Camilla, who was mainly in charge of the heavy magic machines that needed strong power. Because Sue was the only one who had the ability to combine magic and machines, he had to participate in the research on both sides. Of course, this wasn't a good situation. It was impossible for Sue to complete the mechanical engineering research alone. As long as there were more and more magicians with the same abilities as Sue, the research would become more and more powerful. So during these days, whether it was with Steele's group of 3 or with great magician Camilla, Sue paid attention to teaching them some basic mechanical engineering knowledge. Since the 4 of them could become outstanding magicians, Their learning and comprehension abilities were naturally very good, so it was very easy for them to receive this new knowledge. Now that Sue-Yi was proposing a new magic machine, they could even give their own opinions from time to time. Of course, just the four of them were far from enough. So Sue-Yi ran to the Baron Richto Magic Academy to give a public class. His goal was to plant a seed in the minds of these students, letting them have a preliminary understanding of combining magic and machines. If there was a chance in the future, Sue-Yi would continue giving public classes at the Baron Richto Magic Academy. If possible, he would even turn this course into a regular course in the Baron Richto Magic Academy. If even a tenth of the students who graduated from a school were invested in magic machine research, it would be a power that couldn't be ignored. Hey, Chairman Sue, you're here again. As soon as Sue-Yi stepped into the mage tower, a mage greeted him warmly. Hey, good morning. Is the great magician here? Sue-Yi greeted him with a smile. The circle of magicians was not big, and the magic tower was even smaller. The news of Sue-Yi and great magician Camilla working together could not be hidden at all, so it didn't take long for it to spread through the magic tower. Almost all the magicians in the magic tower knew that through great magician Camilla's cooperation with Sue-Yi, he received 1,000 gold coins from Sue-Yi each year. The magic tower being able to operate normally during this time could be considered completely relying on Sue-Yi's strong injection of 1,000 gold coins. To put more directly, Sue-Yi could even be considered the breadwinner of these magicians in the magic tower. So when facing Sue-Yi, these magicians who had disdained him before were naturally much more friendly. His Excellency Great Magician is still researching magic on the top floor like normal. He will definitely be very happy to see you. That magician replied with a smile on his face. All right, thank you. After Sue-Yi gave his thanks with a nod, he didn't go up the magic stairs to the top floor and went to the lab he was in. As soon as he opened the door, he saw everyone in the research room sprawled on the table, seriously conducting magic research. But if he looked closely, he found that they weren't researching normal magic. Rather, they were researching all kinds of magic arrays. Turning his gaze to the wall of the research room, he saw a huge drawing hanging on the wall. The drawing was of a strange-looking machine. Hearing the sound of the door opening, Latte looked up in surprise. When she saw that it was Sue-Yi, she immediately jumped up. Sue-Yi, you're here. This greeting shocked everyone. Everyone looked up and warmly greeted Sue-Yi. Sue-Yi returned their greetings with a smile before asking Latte, How is it? How is the research going? Latte's happy expression after seeing Sue-Yi immediately turned into worry. She shook her head and said with a sigh, It's not that good. We've already researched the magic arrays needed for the various parts of the magic excavator, but we can't solve the problem of combining them together without causing conflict. As for creating a whole like you said, we don't have a clue at all. Let me see the results of your research first. All right. Sue-Yi took the information that Latte had gathered and seriously looked it over. Reaching an agreement with Great Magician Camilla, of course it didn't mean that all the research that Sue-Yi needed would be done by Great Magician Camilla alone. For a great magician like him, the magicians in the Magic Tower could be considered his assistants. So when faced with the research tasks that Sue-Yi proposed, he would give the things that he didn't need to do to the magicians under him to complete. Since Sue-Yi had worked in this lab before, the magicians in this lab had worked with Sue-Yi on some magic machines before, Great Magician Camilla would normally give this research to this lab. Because Sue-Yi would give Great Magician Camilla some gold coins each time he finished a research task, Great Magician Camilla would give a portion to the magicians in this lab. So the magicians in this lab were envied by the other magicians in the Magic Tower. After looking at the research results of Latte and the others, Sue-Yi quickly found the problem. These magicians were stronger than Steele's group of 3, but it was because of this that their concept of magic was rigid. When they studied these magic arrays, they still used traditional magic arrays. The magic excavator that Sue-Yi gave them this time could be considered the most complicated magic machine that New Flyer had developed. If they used traditional magic arrays to deal with it, of course there would be all kinds of problems. Actually, He had overestimated them because when he was discussing with great magician Camilla and Steele's group of three, he had always been on the side, so they rarely encountered these problems. The magicians in the lab were doing their own research, so without Yi's influence, it was hard for them to change. If Yi had given them more detailed blueprints, there would have been fewer problems. Thinking of this, Yi relaxed his brows. He gathered everyone in the lab and spread out the blueprints, giving them a detailed explanation. Yi's explanation was very detailed, not even letting go of the smallest details. He showed all of his ideas to these magicians. What he hoped for now was to change their minds and let them become qualified magic mechanical engineers as soon as possible, making it easier for them to participate in magic machine research. With them changing, when the other magicians in the magic tower saw the benefits, there was a high chance that they would change as well. Changing the magicians in the magic tower, it was possible to change the magicians in Bana City, the entire Lampari kingdom, and finally all the magicians in the signs. At that time, it would no longer be a dream to create a complete industrial system in the signs. It wasn't easy to explain the various aspects of the magic excavator. The most difficult thing was to explain the theory behind the design of this magic machine. There were many times when he had to teach them the most basic knowledge of physics and geometry. This was knowledge that could only be considered elementary school students on Earth. But it made these magicians who were worshipped by the other people in the signs shocked. After spending an entire 3 hours, he finally explained all of his ideas. Seeing that everyone around him finally revealed looks of understanding, he let out a sigh of relief. Properly speaking, these magicians weren't that old, so it should be easy for them to understand new knowledge. But when Sui talked to them, he found that it was even more difficult than talking to great magician Camilla. When discussing magic machines with great magician Camilla, there were many things that he didn't need to explain. Great magician Camilla could understand it himself and could even draw inferences from it. It had to be known, great magician Camilla was an old man who was almost 60 years old. After explaining his requirements again, he left the lab and went up the magic stairs, arriving at the top of the magic tower. Great magician Camilla was indeed researching magic in a lab at the top. Of course, he was still researching magic. Seeing Yi come in, great magician Camilla looked up at him and suddenly said, "I have good news and bad news." Yi, which one do you want to hear first? You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.